Chapter 4381 Good Fortune? Lung Rushuang heard the words for a moment, and then he was a little confused. Senior, please tell me more. The white-haired ancestor nodded and replied. The old man has a way to save Jian Wushuang, which is based on the blood of the old man, so that he can exchange blood and awaken the domineering body. Once Jian Wushuang can awaken the domineering body, the source of life will tend to eternity, truly immortal. He will naturally survive. However, the old man needs to remind you that even if it is a tyrant, there is a tyrant blood in the body. If you want to awaken the tyrant, it is only a 1/10 chance. Moreover, Jian Wushuang does not yet have a tyrant blood. It was just taking the blood of the old man as a guide. Once he failed to awaken the domineering body, he was afraid that he would really fall. After speaking, Bai Mao's ancestor stopped talking, but stared coldly at Frost. He confessed that he had done everything right, and the rest was left to him to decide by himself. Lung Rushuang heard the expression for a while, then took a deep breath, and thanked him and said, Thank you for your advice, but this matter is very important. I want to think about it first. It's natural. The white-haired ancestor nodded, smiled slightly, and then got up and left the ice cave, and Run Rungru weighed the pros and cons himself. After Bai Mao's ancestors left, the ice cave suddenly became silent. Cold as frost stood beside Jian Wushuang, his thumb with a gentle divine power wiped off the thin frost on Jian Wushuang's face. His expression was bewildered. She wanted Jian Wushuang to come alive, but she was more afraid of the mystery failure. Jian Wushuang fell directly and left him. Her heart was like swinging on a swing. Fu Jun, what do you say I should do? Cold as frosting to himself, he put his head on Jian Wushuang's chest, listening to Jian Wushuang's weak heartbeat. Time passes slowly, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Bai Mao's ancestors have never stepped into the ice cave, ever since he made that remark on that day. The overlord came in a few times, and tried to say something, but was swallowed by him, and finally just looked at Jian Wushuang for a while, and then left. A year has passed. In this snow and ice forbidden area, there is no night and day, and it will always be white and blank, and the concept of time cannot be distinguished. Lung Rushuang is like a sculpture, forgetting to practice, and forgetting to practice, so he stubbornly stood by Jian Wushuang. She was struggling internally. If she did not use the secret method, one day sooner or later, Jian Wushuang would really leave him. And if she used the secret method, although Jian Wushuang might be awake, or even go further, there is a greater possibility that she would be buried. To die, then it is equivalent to killing her close lover herself. How can this be tolerated? Time was spent in my thoughts until one day, when she felt cold and saw Jian Wushuang's hair slowly turn to gray. She couldn't help it anymore. Fu Jun, I think if you can make your own choice, you will definitely choose to fight once? At this moment, Lung Rushuang remembered a lot of things. Remembered that Jian Wushuang turned to fight 3,000 miles. One sword was once a million division. Think of Jian Wushuang's countless counterattacks, and then stood up. At this moment, the heavens in her heart finally tilted towards the side of mystery. Fu Jun, if you wake up, you will naturally be happy, but if you fail to wake up and die, then I am as cold as a frost. But if I accompany you to death, what fear? Shang poor green fell Huangquan. I am as cold as frost to accompany you to rush and die without regrets. There was a wave of firmness in the cold, frosty eyes, took a deep breath, and strode out of the ice cave. Outside the ice cave, Bai Mao's ancestor was sitting in front of the thousands of ice lakes, holding a bamboo pole and fishing quietly. Hearing the frosty footsteps, Bai Mao's ancestor did not turn back and said lightly, Girl doll, are you ready to make a decision? Lung Rushuang nodded his head and said firmly, Also ask my predecessors to perform magical powers and save my husband. Do you really regret it? Not regret. Good. A smile appeared on Bai Mao's ancestor's face, shook his fishing rod, and stood up. Then, let's get started. Bai Mao's ancestors strode into the ice cave, followed by Ba Wang and Ling Grushwang. You don't need to come in, just wait for the old man outside. The overlord and Lung Rushuang heard each other and stopped. The snow and ice outside the ice caves are getting bigger and bigger, and there is a great deal of momentum. Overlord and cold as frost began to wait quietly. Inside the ice cave, the white-haired ancestor stood with his hands in his hands, glanced at the sword Wuxia lying on the Wansai Xianbing, and murmured to himself, "The good wind relies on strength to send me to Qingyan. Little man, the old man will give you this good fortune. Whether you can go straight to Qingyan depends on your own ability. Don't let the old man down." Ha! Suddenly, the white hair ancestors were covered with golden light. All white hair was scattered, revealing a magnificent and majestic body. His eyes were like fire, his blood was exuberant, and his whole body was glittering with gold light, just like the gold-armored war who stepped out from 9 days. Next moment, he pointed out his index finger and banged it on Jian Wuxuang's eyebrow. A tiny bit of golden blood broke out from his fingertips, entered the heart of Jian Wuxuang's eyebrows, and was quickly absorbed. As the ancestors of Bai Mao's ancestors were absorbed, I saw Jian Wuxuang's pale and bloodless face, and suddenly a faint reddish-gray hair, and turned black again. In contrast, Bai Mao's ancestors, who were originally burly and tall, gradually dried up, and their original radiance like the sun was gradually diminishing. Do you want a few drops of sperm blood to dominate the world, reverse life and death, and reshape the source of life? The price of Bai Mao's ancestors is far more than telling the overlord. Time flies, years go by, and in the blink of an eye, it's been years. Click. The gate of the ice cave opened, and Bai Mao ancestor stepped out of the ice cave. Girl doll, my husband has 10 good-looking pills here, and every so often, you swallow the sword warrior. As for whether he can wake up, it depends on him. Bai Mao's ancestor's eyes can hardly hide the tiredness with a wave of his hand. He took out a jade bottle and said, "Thank you for your elders. The elders, my husband and I, are unforgettable." Cold as frost suddenly rejoiced. After receiving the jade bottle, he made a loud noise towards the white-haired ancestor. "No need." The white-haired ancestor shook his head, then stepped forward and disappeared in front of them. Not as cold as frost, quickly entered the ice cave. I saw Jian Wuxuang lying on the ice bed. Although he was still not awake, the complexion on his face was no longer pale, but a little ruddy. 10 days later, as cold as frost, he took a longan-sized Dan pill from the jade bottle and carefully inserted it into Jian Wuxuang's mouth. Later, she began to wait for Jian Wuxuang's transformation. Chapter 4382 Dark. Endless darkness. Jian Wuxuang felt as if he had fallen into an eternal void, where everything was still. There was no sun, no moon, no stars, no day and night. Jian Wuxuang felt himself, and turned into a ray of energy scattered in this void. He was so confused. He didn't know where he came from or where he was going. He wandered like this, not knowing how long it had been. Maybe it was an instant, or maybe 10,000 years, and suddenly, in the endless night, there was a hint of redness, a trace of red. Subsequently, the scene became more and more. The world is no longer monotonous black, but is rendered into a bright red. Suddenly, a ray of light exploded in Jian Wuxuang's consciousness. He began to have sensations, touches, pain, all feelings and memories how the tide was flowing. I am swordless. Suddenly, Jian Wuxuang's consciousness awakened from his deep sleep. He didn't wait for him to think about it. When he wasn't fallen, a magnificent force that broke the world. No, it should be said to be energy. Into his body. Pain. Heartbreaking pain. Under this violent and magnificent force, Jian Wuxuang felt that his body was torn by the burst. This great power comes from his blood. His blood was burning like a flame, and he wanted to burn him all. No, exactly, it should be a foreign blood, constantly tearing the particles, atoms and cells in his own blood, so as to replace it. This blood, as vigorous as the rising sun, with endless vitality, made a radical change in his body. Under this change, his missing and lost life source began to repair step by step, and moved in another direction. At the same time, inside the ice cave, Bai Mao's ancestors, as cold as frost, were all around Jian Wuxuang, watching Jian Wuxuang. At this moment, the sword was unparalleled. I saw that his eyes were still closed and fell asleep, but he was aware of it. He seemed to be experiencing something extremely painful. His eyebrows were wrinkled, His eyelashes were constantly fluttering, his body was red and hot, and he even opened them from time to time. Road crack. Senior, what is my husband doing now? Cold as frost asked anxiously. The white-haired ancestor's eyes flashed, and when Yen said, "Women, do you know the story of breaking a cocoon into a butterfly?" Jian Wushuang is now experiencing the most critical step of breaking a cocoon into a butterfly. If he can survive, it will sublime as much as possible, break the life sacrifice, and recover, awaken the indomitable body, and then go further. But if he can't survive it, he will die, and everything will become nothing. When Lung Rushuang heard this, a heart tightened instantly and couldn't help asking, "Senior, what can I do?" "You." Patriarch Bai Mao gave him a glance and shook his head. "The only thing you can do now is to wait quietly and see how he experiences this transformation. This transformation is both good and bad. Blessing or misfortune lies in his own thoughts." Cold as frost heard the words, stopped talking, converged his thoughts, and silently prayed in his heart. Time is gone, it is a few years. 30 years have passed since the moment Sword Wushuang was rescued. Overlord has departed and headed for the cosmopolitan event. Stuck. I saw the godless body of the sword at this moment, already covered with numerous dense cracks, like a patchwork of ceramics, and it seemed that it would soon be broken. His eyebrows were tightly twisted, and his face was full of pain. It seems that this little fellow, Jian Wushuang, can't stand it. The white-haired ancestor shook his head and said Shinsheng. At this point, Bai Mao's ancestor sighed softly and said, "Even if it is our tyrants, it is extremely difficult to awaken the indomitable tyrants, not to mention the young man Jian Wushuang. Failure is justified." "Is that so?" Cold as frost heard the words, could not help but utter a grin. All efforts are in vain in the end. At this moment cold as frost is death. She gently held Jian Wushuang's palm, wiped some wet eyes, and squeezed a strong smile on her face. First, she thanked the white-haired ancestor, and then looked at Jian Wushuang. "Tenderness. Fu Jun, it's okay, even if it's dead, I will accompany you." Seeing this, the ancestor of Bai Mao could not help but sigh again. "I'm crazy." Click and wipe. There are more and more cracks in Jian Wushuang's body. Just when Jian Wushuang's body is about to burst completely, life is on the verge of collapse. Suddenly, one came from the depths of Jian Wushuang's soul, and the power from his super-perfect chaotic creatures burst out, turning into a mask, enclosing the entire sword. Under this power, Jian Wushuang's originally fragile body began to heal at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, and stride in a direction that even the Bai Mao ancestors didn't know. This is. The white-haired ancestor was startled, his eyes flickered sharply. He didn't know what happened to Jian Wushuang, but he could feel that Jian Wushuang's originally weak life source boiled violently, and his breath of life was like a raging fire, which was burning. He was palpitated by the scent of life that was boiling and burning. Perfect chaotic creature? Bai Mao's ancestor looked at Jian Wushuang in suspicion. Only then did he realize that Jian Wushuang was a perfect chaotic creature rare in ancient times. What kind of spark will the immortal bull body and the perfect chaotic creature collide with? In this case, even Bai Mao's ancestors could not give an answer. "Let's go out, don't disturb him." He took a deep breath. Although he didn't know what the situation was, he knew that Jian Wushuang was undergoing a transformation that has never been seen before, and has never come after. This world has never transformed. What happened? Cold as frost heard a word. Jian Wushuang may be awake. The ancestor of Bai Mao looked like a torch, saying it word by word. Afterwards he took the cold as frost, left this magnificent ice cave, and watched from a distance. Grunt, grunt, grunt. A heavy gasp came out of the ice cave like a thunderous thunder, as if it was a flood monster, and began to awaken. Grunt, grunt. This gasp sounded like a big drum, dull and deep. Then, the sound grew louder and louder. At last, an explosion that destroyed the world came out, and the ice cave condensed by countless chaos eras burst open. In this explosion, countless glaciers exploded and ice peaks shattered to form avalanches of avalanches. In this scene of world extinction, a golden light suddenly rose into the sky, straight up into the clouds. Chapter 4383. Rumble. Snowflakes fluttered and scum splashed. That golden light shot for 9 days. As the same round of fiery sun floated, melting numerous snow and ice. In this golden light, a dark-haired dark man opened his eyes slowly. Sword unparalleled. Fu Jun. Suddenly, Bai Mao's ancestor's eyes flickered, and his eyes were crying with joy. I saw in the eyes of the two, the bright golden light gradually dispersed, revealing Jian Wushuang's upper body naked figure. At this moment, the sword was unparalleled, its appearance suddenly changed, and its thick black hair was breeding wildly. It dangled to the heel. The original white body was now covered with golden runes. This is nothing, especially the eyes of Jian Wushuang, the biggest change. That is a pair of purple gold eyes. Jian Wushuang's black and white eyes disappeared, replaced by a pair of purple gold eyes. At the position of his eyebrow, there was a purple chuan mark. Chaos Overlord. Suddenly, Bai Mao's ancestor was shocked. His eyes showed an unbelievable look. He stared at Jian Wushuang tightly. Breathing couldn't help becoming heavy. Senior, what is Chaos Overlord? As cold as frost, he asked in confusion. The white-haired ancestor took a deep breath, still staring at Jian Wushuang intently, and said with a deep voice in his mouth, "Girl dolls, all races of the world are born from the chaos of the universe. Ancestors, etc. We do not destroy the tyrant family. Of course the same is true. And we do not destroy the tyrant family. The first person born in the chaos of the universe, that is, the ancestor of the tyrant, he is the tyrant of the tyrant." Unexpectedly, the essence of my domineering body actually let Jian Wushuang, the little guy, wake up and return to his ancestors, inspiring Yuan's chaotic domineering body. With that said, Bai Mao's ancestors' expression was wonderful. They are a family of tyrants, who have been able to awaken the indomitable tyrants since the generations passed on. Only a few people can think of a person who has nothing to do with them and awaken the chaotic tires. He can see that although the current sword is unparalleled, the Chaos Overlord has just begun to get started. But if it takes time, it will most likely grow to the level of Overlord Ancestor. That is where he is today. For the time being it is difficult to look beyond its reach. Why is this? Because Jian Wushuang is the reason for the perfect chaotic life? There was a pensive thought in Bai Mao's ancestor's eyes. Over 9 days, Jian Wushuang looked down at his flesh covered with godliness. His eyes flashed for a while. He can feel that there is a horrible power almost exploding in his body now. That power is the supreme physical force that blows the stars and blows the stars. He felt that now, he seemed to be able to blow a supreme with one punch. This power. Jian Wushuang exhaled softly, and immediately turned over with his right hand. Wu Wei's Excalibur appeared in his hand. He took the Wu Cry Excalibur, and swiped his chest hard, but it was a long stream of sparks, without even breaking the skin. How did it happen? He was a little shy. Didn't he clearly die in the hands of Long Qing? Why not only did he not die, but he sublimated as much as possible, and his body suddenly became so powerful. At this moment a white-haired figure, coming at a very fast speed, stood in front of him one step. As soon as he was about to ask, he saw this white-haired figure constantly looking up and down, as if he had been treasured, and finally laughed. "Ha ha ha, I did read it right. It was Chaos Overlord. Senior, are you?" Jian Wushuang looked puzzled and arched his hand towards the white-haired ancestor. He could feel that although the white-haired ancestor was exceptionally strong, he was not malicious to him. And there was even a kind of sameness between the two. The natural closeness of a vein. "Fu Jun, this is the ancestor of the ancestor. He saved you." Cold as frost came in the air smiled. Immediately, the cold as frost told the white-haired ancestors how to rescue him from those 6 supreme masters, and how to use the secret technique to awaken him. Immediately, Jian Wushuang moved, and hurriedly and respectfully respected the Bai Mao ancestors, saying, "Senior ancestors, today's grace is like a remake. Such great graces and great deeds are not memorable. They will be useful to me in the future when the sword was unparalleled. Shang Por Bai fell to Huang Quan, and my sword was unparalleled." The Bai Mao ancestor smiled when he heard the words, and waved his hand indifferently. "You're welcome. You saved my grandson's life. But the old man just paid the favor for the grandson. Jian Wushuang shook his head and calmed back. Senior ancestors, I saved the overlord at first, but it was a smooth hand, recreated with your kindness, not the same day. Bai Mao's ancestors were not arrogant people who pushed back and forth. He smiled and replied, Little guy, you have the bloodline heritage of the old man. You can be regarded as half of the old man's descendants. So, what kind of accidents have you encountered, when my tyrants are in great danger, and can no longer shelter the tyrants? You can take a hand and carry them back, and you will be returned to today's grace. How? This is nature. Jian Wushuang nodded firmly. The white-haired ancestor saw this, and there was a touch of relief in his eyes. The sword is unparalleled, and the husband will not stay much anymore. When you are sleeping, this girl doll stays beside you day and night to take care of you carefully. You too should be gentle. After that, Bai Mao's ancestors were about to leave, but before he left, he seemed to think of something again, adding, Yes, the sword is unparalleled. The cosmic race of the universe has been open for 40 years, you better hurry up. Because the adult will immediately at the Grand Cosmos event. 10 people will be selected to become the children of the seat, and listen to the last 10 years. You must not delay. The words fell. Bai Mao's ancestors didn't hesitate anymore, and as soon as they stepped on, they were like a fireball disappeared into the sword vision. Has it been 40 years for the Universe Festival? Jian Wushuang's pupils narrowed slightly, and his eyes flashed thoughts. Immediately, Jian Wushuang converged his thoughts. His eyes turned to frost. His eyes were soft and loving. 1 year later, on the snow plain, Jian Wushuang wore a large black robe, and his back was too sacred. He walked barefoot. Every step he took was on the thousands of feet of ice, leaving a deep mark of fire. Shuanger, leave for your husband first, take care of yourself. Father, stand here waiting for you to return safely. Cold as frost, wearing a purple fringed dress, standing behind Jian Wushuang, smiled slightly. It is good. Jian Wushuang nodded towards her, and then hesitated, pressing his right hand against the white jade card on his waist. That was the pass to the cosmic grand event, the Night Palace. Click. Suddenly, the white jade brand shattered, and a soft light burst into the sky. Ha! The next moment, the sky of Wanli clear sky suddenly changed. I saw countless clouds torn apart, and a white beam suddenly shot down from the sky to form an aperture. Jian Wushuang stepped into this aperture. Call out. The light beam was withdrawn, the world was clear, and the figure of Jian Wushuang disappeared. To download the latest TXT ebook of this book, please click Book Mobile Reading, Book Reviews. For the convenience of reading next time, you can click on the favorite below to record this time. Chapter 438 Chaos Bully. Read the record, and you can see it next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 4384. Whirring. A 9-day wind came, and Jian Wushuang was held up by a colorful auspicious cloud, constantly breaking through the void, shuttled through the crack, and swept away in an unknown direction. The sword stood without a negative hand, and among the purple gold eyes, the thoughts kept flashing. In this year, in addition to being cold and frosty, he spent most of his time familiarizing himself with this chaotic hegemony and inquiring with Bai Mao ancestors about the events of the universe. First of all, it is this chaos overlord. For Jian Wushuang, the previous self, whether it is the understanding of kendo, or the understanding of the laws of the universe, or the strength of divine power, is the pinnacle of the dominion in the world. Even looking at eternity, there are few who can stand by him. His only shortcoming is physical strength. His body in the realm of can only be regarded as ordinary. Even some practitioners specializing in the body, or some races that are inherently strong in the body, are far more powerful than him. But now, as he awakens the Chaos Overlord, this short board is finally filled. And the advantage this brings is that now he is afraid that he will stand in place and let the Elementary Supreme come to kill. The Elementary Supreme cannot break his defense, and he can directly punch a Elementary Supreme with one punch. Burst. In addition, the avenue is connected, He tried to use the Taro Excalibur again, and the backlash that sucked him away instantly has been minimized. In other words, he will truly master the Taro Excalibur, no longer limited by the number of times. This is where Jian Wushuang is most pleased. Today I am enough to truly kill the Supreme. Even the top Supreme can fight it. Jian Wu's eyes flickered, his eyes flashed cold and murderous. I don't know how many void cracks have been shuttled. After a moment, a magnificent palace built on the clouds of 9 days appeared in front of the sword without 2 sides. I saw that the palace was lifted by gorgeous red clouds and paved with blue brick and white jade glazed tiles. There were elegant cranes around the palace shaking their wings to fly up and down, and a rainbow across the palace. Countless rich avenues and the power of the rules have brought a sense of calmness and affinity. In the middle of the palace, a plaque hung with the word Liaoxiao was quaint and simple. Is this the Lingxiao Palace? Jian Wushuang sighed slightly. This Lingxiao Palace is really like a fairy land, rare in the world. Who's here? Is there an invitation? Outside the Lingxiao Palace, 2 soldiers wearing silver armor, wearing silver helmets and holding long rifles, stood at the gate of the Ling Palace, asking loudly, that adult is really a big hand. The godkeeper who is responsible for the gatekeeper is a supreme practice. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes, then stepped down, fell outside the gate of the Night Palace, grabbed his backhand, and grabbed the white jade token that was obtained in Shinkong Ancient Road and said, "The invitation letter is this token." "Sir, wait a minute, let me wait and see for 1 or 2. The 2 gods will respectfully receive the sword token from Jian Wushuang, and after carefully looking at it, return the Baiyu token to Jian Wushuang and say, "Hello, please." "Well, thank you." Jian Wushuang nodded towards the 2 gods, and stepped into the gate of the Lingxiao Palace immediately. As soon as I stepped on, I saw a long white jade staircase, which appeared in front of the sword without double sides. Next to this white jade staircase, a number of supreme strong men with different appearances are sitting side by side. Some are born with tiger heads, others are catfish become gods, and others are old friends with 3 heads and 6 arms, eyes full of faces. This is the top race in the universe. It seems that their order of sitting is an order of strength. The more they sit in front, the higher their strength. When they saw the sword Wushuang coming, a flash of doubt flashed in their eyes, and they whispered, "Who is this person? Why did you just rush to the cosmopolitan event at this time?" "Well, this person seems to be the ultimate dominator." "Ultimate dominance? Didn't you attend the grand event of the universe? Are there only the 3 ultimate masters who have qualified in the ancient road to the stars?" "Yeah, the Overlord and the real Luozi have arrived. This person is sword unparalleled. Jian Wushuang is here." Suddenly the house was sensational. Sword Wushuang, in the near universe, is definitely a name like Lei Guaner, the ultimate master of the area. But the supreme death in his hands has far exceeded the number of hands. You know what a terrible figure this is. Even in the presence of many supreme masters, very few people have slaughtered so many supreme masters. The shadows of the famous trees, the supreme sitting on this white jade ladder, are almost all elementary or middle supreme. And his face suddenly changed slightly, looking at Jian Shuang's eyes full of fear. Unexpectedly, the 6 top-level supremes at the time, including the invincible supremes such as Bingyu, strangled Jian Wushuang together and let him escape. Did he even dare to attend the cosmic event of the universe? Taishi Temple, Dragon and other forces, this time also participated in the event of the clan. It seems that this cosmic event is going to twist and turn. On the white jade ladder, many supremes shook their heads to discuss. The sword has no 2 sides and no expression, and step by step across the stone steps. The stagnant power from this stone steps is almost negligible for him, who now has the Chaos Overlord. Dragon Taishi Temple. Are they all here? When Jian Wushuang heard the discussion, there was a flash of murder in his eyes. It's time to settle new accounts and old accounts. Jian Wushuang mouth corner evoked Mori cold smile. Flip-flop. This white jade staircase has a total of 999 floors. When Jian Wushuang walked to the middle position, there was no elementary supreme existence, Almost all of them were intermediate supreme. When they looked at Xiang Jianwushuang, they were a little less awe and suspicion, but a little more fun and teasing. Oh, isn't this sword unparalleled? A stricken dog, dare to come to the highest level of the universe? Just then a dark sneer came. Okay. Jian Wushuang looked up and saw a supreme man wearing a white robe with the word "too virtual" embroidered on his back, and looked at him with a sneer in front. People who are too virtual temple. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Jinnan, the owner of the third temple of Taishi Temple. I saw the supreme, stood up, and stood in front of Jian Wushuang, and said with a smile, Jinnan. Jian Wushuang thought about it. This name is a little familiar. It seems that when he was supreme in the ancient sky, he wanted to intercept and kill King Zhijia. But later he was chased and killed by King Zhijia. Finally King Zhijia let him go. Oh, Jian Wushuang nodded. Then, get away. Huh. Jian Wushuang's one punch, Jing Guangkankan, directly blasted this Jinnan supreme. Chapter 4385. Laugh. At this moment, Sword Wushuang's whole body was lightened. Purple and gold eyes were full of light. The purple Chuan word on the eyebrow flashed a touch of magic, and the original plain appearance had an inexplicably handsome and overbearing air. Sword unparalleled you. There was a flash of anger in Jinnan Supreme's eyes. He did not expect that Jian Wushuang dared to shoot at him directly at the cosmic race. Well, if you use the Wu Ding Chaos Ding, or the Tai Luo Divine Sword, the old man will still not jealous of your 3-point physical power. Dare to oppose the old man? Immediately, Jinnan Supreme sneered, and the endless supreme divine power surged in his hands, making a good decision in his heart. In this case, then he was simply at the cosmic event of the universe, giving Jian Wushuang an ugly look, and let him lose it in front of the nations. Face. Seeing other supreme things, the sense of play on their faces became more and more abundant. For them, Jian Wushuang was a stranger, and they did not mind seeing Jian Wushuang at the grand event of the universe. A muffled sound exploded. However, a shocking scene happened. I saw Jian Wushuang's punch wrapped in golden light, and he directly blasted the hands of Jinnan Supreme, blasting them inch by inch, crushing them all the way, smashing and dying, and finally hit the chest of Jinnan Supreme, breaking all ways. Huh. The position of Jinnan Supreme's chest was like being hit hard by a sledgehammer, showing a short concave trend, and then the whole person flew out like a shell and rolled down the white jade stairs. How could this be? Isn't Jian Wushuang using a sword? This physical power is even stronger than the supreme body specializing in me. Suddenly, many exclaimed lips on both sides of the white jade stairs exclaimed. They looked at Jian Wushuang, who was expressionless, with extreme astonishment in their eyes. It's vulnerable. Jian Wushuang retracted his fist, shook his head, and continued to move towards the white jade ladder. According to the ancestors of Bai Mao, this white jade staircase is just the periphery of the Cosmos Grand Event. Although it can be considered to participate in the Cosmos Grand Event, even the face of the adult cannot be seen. At the event, mix some spirits and spirits. If you are lucky, maybe you can still hear a word or two when the adult preaches. The Cosmopolitan Grand Event, where all the ethnic groups gather, basically has a name and a surname in the universe, and the top-ranked races will get different numbers of admission tickets. But I was really fortunate enough to enter the infield of the event. There were very few people who saw that adult. According to the past, unless I got a voucher in the ancient Star Road, or among the top people in the universe, the top-ranked 10, only then have a chance. Just as Jian Wushuang stepped up and kept thinking, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in front of him. Swords are unparalleled, don't come here. Jian Wushuang looked up and saw a woman with a stunning appearance, looking at him with a smile. You are? Jian Wushuang heard a word of surprise, and was a little puzzled. He didn't seem to have seen this woman, but she felt a little familiar between them. Don't you know me? The stunning woman reached out and brushed her face, and a blue veil suddenly appeared, covering the face under the eyes, only showing a pair of beautiful eyes. Master Lan. Jian Wushuang first stunned, then a little surprised and smiled. Master Lan, why are you here? For this blue man, Jian Wushuang is still very impressed and has a good impression. This is my master's dojo. I'm not here. Where am I? The stunning woman waved her right hand, the blue veil disappeared, and she covered her mouth with a laugh. This is your master's dojo? When Jian Wushuang heard the words for a second, he felt a little confused in his head and didn't want to understand what it meant. Isn't this adult's place the night palace? Next moment, Jian Wushuang asked something incredible. Master Lan, do you mean that your master is that master? Giggle, did you think? The pretty woman's playful Chao Jian Wushuang blinked and then said, Jian Wushuang, you don't have to call me Lord Lan, just call me Lan Lan. Jian Wushuang nodded his head and arched. I was in the ancient road of Xingkong that day, and there were more Lan Lan girls to mention. I said thank you and I went outside. Jian Wushuang, follow me into the Xiaoxiao Road Association. My master will come out soon, but he appreciates you quite a bit. Lan Lan smiled slightly at the sword Wushuang, then turned around. Lianbu moved lightly, took the sword Wushuang across the white jade steps, and stepped into the palace of Lingxiao Palace. I saw a total of 78 case files in the Great Hall of the Lingxiao Palace. Behind each case, there was a strong man with at least the top and supreme level. After Jian Wushuang walked in, countless eyes were suddenly focused on Jian Wushuang. Sword unparalleled? How really hateful, let this little thief escape his life. This little thief even dared to come to the Cosmopolitan Grand Event. I really don't know how to write the dead words. These eyes are extremely complicated. There are killing, hate, and surprise. Jian Wushuang's face sank, his gaze swept across these 78 cases. Oh, there are many acquaintances in this hall. The ice masthead of the Taishu Temple, the Qiyang God Emperor of the Qiyang Divine Kingdom, the Master of the Blood Celestial Hall of the Blood Celestial Hall, and the Dragon of the Dragon family. At first, the 6 forces involved in strangling him were all there. In addition, there are some old acquaintances. Sword unparalleled, you did not disappoint this seat. This seat has been waiting for you for a long time. The man talking was a white-haired, pale-faced man who was indifferent. But at this moment Jiao Jiawang, who has always been unsmiling, has a slight smile on his face. Sword unparalleled, you are strong again. Jian Wushuang glanced at him and replied with a smile. You got stronger too. In these tens of thousands of years, the King of 9 Calamities has broken through to the extreme. Once the King of 9 Kings had just broken through the Supreme, he could kill the High Supreme, even compared to the Top Supreme. But it was only one line away. After breaking through the Medium Supreme, he was afraid of another leap in strength. For the perfect chaotic creatures such as King of the 9 Kings, it is better not to break through. But once it breaks through, the strength soars much more than ordinary people. Jian Wushuang, when this cosmic race is over, how about you and me? The King of 9 Robbers said. I do the same. Jian Wushuang nodded at him. Allied, are you awake? Just then, a surprise sound came from the other side. It is Overlord. There was an empty spot beside him, and Lan Lan said, Jian Wushuang, that's where you are, hurry up. Jian Wushuang nodded towards Lan Lan first, then strode over towards the Overlord. Chapter 4386. Jian Wushuang, are you really awake? The Overlord looked up at Sword Wushuang up and down. His face was slightly red, and he said incredible. He clearly remembered that Jian Wushuang was in a precarious state before he left the ice cave, and even he thought Jian Wushuang's awakening had failed. That's right, Jian Wushuang, why are you different from me? He looked at Jian Wushuang up and down, and then asked with some confusion. He clearly remembered his body, but without the ancient and mysterious patterns of Jian Wushuang. His eyes did not turn purple gold. Jian Wushuang smiled at him. It seems that this Overlord does not know what the Chaos Overlord is, but he has no intention to explain it. Otherwise it will inevitably have a feeling of ostentation. For the Overlord, Jian Wushuang sincerely thanked him. If this was not Overlord's request to Bai Mao's ancestor to save him, I am afraid that he is dead now. And where else can he appear at this cosmic event? This also makes Jian Wushuang lament the wonder of the cause and effect in the world. At the beginning of the starry sky, he beheaded and killed the prisoner dragon. As a result, The behemoth of the dragon family was accidentally saved, but the overlord saved by accident was at the most critical point. At this moment he saved his life, and made him awaken the chaos overlord, as much as possible to sublime further. A drink and a peck are all causal. I don't know why it turned out like this, guess what kind of variation it is? Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Variation? The overlord smashed his tongue and shook his head and sighed. You, the hegemon, feels more powerful than me. If it is a mutation, I would like to have such a mutation. After a pause, the overlord asked. Sword unparalleled, what are your plans next? Intend. Jian Wushuang drank a glass of spirit wine from the case, and drank a touch of Mori cold smile. Since they didn't kill me, it's time to settle accounts. Overlord Wenyan's pupils narrowed slightly, then nodded and said, Swords are unparalleled. I have reached an agreement with the young patriarch of the Mora family, the holy son of the 9-star Holy Land, and some other disciples from the top forces in the Sword League. You, the leader, say that they will all come to help you. Jian Wushuang heard a little bit of words and groaned. This matter is very important, and we need to discuss it from the long term. Just as the two kept talking shivering, suddenly a rather harsh voice sounded beside them. Just because of you, these black people want to deal with those 6 forces? Okay. Jian Wushuang heard the words, squinted and looked away, and saw the ultimate master sitting on the other side of the overlord, dismissive. The ultimate dominator was full of blue hair and a beard, 2 beards on his mouth, and his face full of contempt. And who are you? Jian Wushuang asked lightly. Before waiting for this person to speak, he saw the overlord next to him with a dignified expression. Leader, his name is Tian Lizzie. It was the Xingkong Ancient Road that arrived after you left. He immediately defeated the Sword Alliance, and became the new ruler of Xingkong Ancient Road at that time. Rarely he turned to his men. In recent years, Tian Lizzie has also made a lot of fame in the universe, and even killed the Supreme as well. He is a man who is not only the leader but you. Oh, you are a loser, but you remember it well. Tian Luozi gave a glance at Bawang, then turned to Jian Wushuang, sneered and said, Jian Wushuang, the universe has been advocating what your first genius is. Well, I think that's just a stigma. You haven't met me yet. Speaking of which, Tian Luozi paused, glanced at Jian Wushuang, and provocatively said, Jian Wushuang, wait for the end of this cosmic race. How will we fight? See who is the real universe. Only on the first day. If I lose, my Tian Lizzie is willing to submit to you for your use. But if your sword is unparalleled, hey, then I'm sorry. In the future your sword unparalleled will see how far I can roll. Jian Wushuang, how is it? Do you have the courage to fight me? Jian Wushuang heard the expression calmly, put down his wine glass and shook his head. Not interested in. After that, Jian Wushuang no longer cares about him, but turns his eyes to look at Long Qing, who is staring at him aside. Long Qing, didn't expect it, I can survive. Sword unparalleled. For today's Jian Wushuang, in addition to the top of the Supreme, this is no matter what Tian Lizzie, or the Jinan Supreme, who was blocking the road before, has long been ignored by him, and is not at a level. He couldn't even stir him up or wait. It's like an elephant. He doesn't care about the ants shouting at him. Well, sword unparalleled, you can rest assured that you can't live long. Long Qing licked her lips, and shot a deep grudge in her eyes. This sentence, you should say to yourself. Jian Wu's eyes stared at him indifferently, and returned coldly. That ignored Tian Luozi, and his face turned blue and white for a while, but no one would care about him. The atmosphere of the hall seemed calm, but the 6 forces headed by the Dragon Clan had long been surging in secret, staring at Jian Wushuang, Jiu Jia Wang and others, and the killing intention in their eyes was almost condensed into substance. Everyone knows that once the cosmic event is over, there will be an uproar in the entire universe. Time passed slowly, and the main seat of the hall remained vacant. Everyone was waiting silently, waiting for the master of this grand event of the universe. I don't know how long it has been before, the whole night palace suddenly shakes. The sound of countless avenues rose, and the lotuses covered with roads condensed out of thin air, and then bloomed. Lan Lan, who was standing on both sides of the theme, And another boy with red lips and white teeth suddenly looked at the sky and knelt down and said in a long voice, "Disciple Lon Lon, welcome to Master. Disc Lon Su, welcome to Master." I saw the sky above the Lingxiao Palace, and countless auspicious clouds rushed together, finally condensing an old man with long white eyebrows and white hair and long ears. This old man's breath is ordinary. It seems to be just an ordinary person, full of simplicity, but it seems to be an incarnation of an avenue, giving people a sense of how difficult it is to see through. His eyes were dazzling with stars and a slight smile on his face, which gave people a sense of intimacy, just by taking a look at them, like a spring breeze. All the hustle and bustle of his heart was cleared. After his appearance, the clouds rose, the cranes cleared, and a blossoming lotus paved the way for him. There was a sound between heaven and earth, as if he was welcoming the Lord of heaven and earth. Wanzong Xiaoguang surged behind him, forming a light wheel. Wow! Suddenly, all the strong people of all ethnic groups in the Lingxiao Palace got up and stood up, respectfully looked at the old man, and said in unison, "Ill wait. Welcome to Lord God." Chapter 4387. For a moment, the 4 words of respect to the gods of the earth resounded through the sky and shook the world. At this moment, whether it's proud or dragon-like, or any other person with a temperament, looking at the white-haired old man's gaze is extremely respectful. Break through the supreme and know, this Tao is the of the universe. God of God? Is he the adult? Jian Wushuang lowered his head and quietly looked at the old man with Yuguang. At the same time, he was disappointed when he was shocked. Before seeing this adult, he had guessed in his heart that this adult who has the supreme status in the universe, even the supreme being regarded as taboo, would be his mysterious master. As a result, he did not think so. "Sit down, everyone." The Zhou stepped down and landed on the main seat of the Lingxiao Palace, with a slight smile on his face. "Master God, don't you come here lately?" "Sir Master, I am on the avenue of the rule. I have been wondering recently, and am trying to ask you questions." A veteran supreme, who seems familiar with the gods of the universe, said one after another. And the more extreme, it is the heart of the heart, quite a bit embarrassed. Without being supreme, you will never understand the horror of the gods of the universe. One thought, 1,000 thoughts and 1,000 thoughts, one thought extinguished, and the sea changes. The power of the gods is far beyond their imagination. Not urgent. The God of God smiled slightly, stretched out his hand and swept towards the void, and within a short time, there were 78 cases in the hall, and a pot of sake appeared. This wine is famous for its divine spirit. This is a small gift that you can easily refine during your recent journey around the world. You can try it. This remark made everyone happy. This is the spirit wine refined by the God of God, and its value is completely inestimable. Even if it is a drop, I am afraid that it will be enough to cause a great uproar in the outside world. Thank God for reward. Everyone was excited to thank. Even the half-step invincible Supreme Emperor Qiang Emperor had a strong excitement in his eyes. Gollum. Everyone held up the jug and drank it carefully, for fear of a drop of waste. After a while, after seeing this spirit wine enter the belly, many supremes suddenly turned red, and the supreme divine power surged, and countless avenue rules were diffusing. Jian Wushuang also picked up the drink and drank it, but saw that the drink was tasteless. But when he went into his throat, he was spitting and turning into a touch of sweetness. Before he could have time to think deeply, a soft current burst into his god, like a fiery fire, quickly passed through the 8 veins of his strange scriptures, and covered with hundreds of bones. Suddenly, a whole body of Shu Tai's feelings surged, and numerous road rules evolved beside him, but they actually condensed into a substance, forming a 3-flowered gathering on his head. Ha! Suddenly, there was a veteran supreme who was trapped in the current years, and instantly realized that his whole body was soaring, and he made a breakthrough. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes tightly. At one moment, he was only 1 line away from the supreme threshold, and was immediately caught by him. Take control of the heaven and earth, and use the power of heaven and earth for your own purposes. The infinite is infinite, It is the supreme position. Boom! The sound of a boulevard, like the tongue of a spring thunder, exploded in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang did not dare to delay in the slightest, and while the meaning of this avenue was still there, he quickly began to realize. The same is true of everyone else present, one after another doing a good job, frowning tightly, realizing the true meaning of the road. Boom boom! Ha ha ha! I have been trapped for 300,000 years and finally broke through. I saw an old high-level supreme shout, and his body became bright, and countless stars circulated around him. After drinking this cup of Huashan wine, he finally went a step further and broke through to the top. Time passed slowly, and in the Ling Xiao Hall from time to time, someone heard a long howl and broke through the realm. Some of them burst into tears in spite of their disappointment after breaking through, and others hurled their heads towards the gods of the earth to show their gratitude. Extreme succeed. At this moment, the overlord next to Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes, and a bright golden light flashed in his eyes. I saw a sound of snapped crackling fried beans all over his body, and his whole Buddhist divine power transformed towards the supreme divine power, with endless starlight and xianhui surrounding him, like a piece of jadeite, thoroughly washed the plum blossoms. In the distance, colorful clouds came together, and red thunders began to shuttle inside. This is the supreme only when you break through the supreme realm. Little guy, get ready to rob. Zeus Hen gave him a smirk and a right-handed wave, and the overlord suddenly floated up and stood in the void. The silver snakes flew, the house was full of electricity, and the colorful thunder cleaved down and banged on the overlord. Suddenly, the overlord was bathed in the thunder, exuding a brilliant golden light, and his breath did not fade in the slightest, but it skyrocketed. For the ultimate mastermind to break through the supreme, this supreme thunder is not a disaster, but a baptism. A total of 18 thunders broke down, and after a while, the sky and earth resumed clear and colorful clouds gradually dispersed. Overlord opened his eyes. His face was full of uncontrollable joy. Thank you, Lord God. He immediately knelt down toward the of the Zhou, and gave 3 loud noises. Anyway, this is your own creation. The God of God raised his hand, and for a while, a gentle force lifted the overlord and returned to the case a few days later. Time slowly wandered, and wine power was gradually digested. Almost everyone present was awake from the epiphany. No matter whether it was a breakthrough or not, the face was full of joy. Only the sword is unparalleled. His eyes are still closed and his brows are locked for a while. Today he has infinitely approached the state of supremacy. If you change to ordinary people, I'm afraid that you have already broken the supreme thousands of times. But I don't know why, maybe because he is a super perfect chaotic creature. It is much more difficult than ordinary people to break through. As if there is an extremely thick natural barrier between master and supreme, no matter how he attacks it. It always gives him a feeling that he can break through just a little bit. But even at this point, he was not allowed to break through this barrier by letting him evoke the power of the avenue and cooperate with the power of the refinement of that wine. After a while, Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed a little lost. Noting the overlord who broke through the supreme, Jian Wushuang arched his hand at him, with a strong smile on his face, and said, "Congratulations on obtaining the supreme avenue." Overlord nodded joyfully, and then looked up and down Jian Wushuang a little puzzled. Sword Wushuang, reasonably said that your talent is thousands of times stronger than me. I have broken the supreme, shouldn't you not break through? That being said, it's a bit disturbing. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to smile bitterly. Who knows, maybe there will be more good things. The overlord groaned one or two, and then said, "Well, swords are unparalleled, but I have also heard that the more talented they are, the harder it is to break through the supremacy, such as the first day of 100,000 chaos, before the chaos era natural talent is rare. But it can never break through the supreme. For example, the king of 9 calamities in your palace of life is also the supreme who broke through after dozens of chaos. These evildoers like you generally have one thing in common. That is, if you don't break through, then you will break through the supreme, and the strength will be countless times stronger than the supreme during the same period. Chapter 4388. Hearing the words of the Overlord, Jian Wushuang had no choice but to comfort himself. And he also had a humble feeling in himself. If you break through the supreme yourself, I am afraid that the supreme thunder will have a world-shaking difference from ordinary people. The other side, Long Qing's body was glittering with gold, slowly opening her eyes, and her face filled with satisfaction. After serving that glass of divine wine, he also broke through. Today he is half invincible supreme. Jian Wushuang, you better pray. There will be someone to save you after the cosmic grand event. He stared at Jian Wushuang, licked his lips, and there was a cruel color in his eyes. Jian Wushuang heard a cold hum and ignored him. The time has come. It is time for the old man to select 10 boys to listen to the sermon. On the main seat, Zhou God saw everyone recovering, and Fu Su smiled and said. Suddenly, everyone looked shocked, and there was a rush of fanaticism in their eyes. Preaching the God of the Elder. This is the biggest opportunity in this cosmic event. Do they spare no expense to come to this night palace, just to fight for the 10 listening positions? It can be said that the invincible supremacy in the universe today is almost the only opportunity to break through the invincible supreme after listening to the preaching of the universe. There was also the Taro Supreme, who once ruled the universe and was dominated by the universe. He was named the first sword master of all ages. It was only after listening to this knight's palace that he had the power. It can be said that almost half of the top powerhouses in the entire universe come from the Lingxiao Palace. This makes them, how can they not be attentive? I saw the glance of the God of Gods swept across everyone's faces, and smiled and said, the old man doesn't see cultivation as a state. He doesn't look strong or not. Can. As soon as the words came down, everyone in the audience shrank slightly. If you don't look at the state of cultivation, you don't look at the combat power. What should you look at? Everyone was puzzled, but didn't ask much, waiting quietly for what God said. Fortunately, the of the universe did not intend to sell Guanzi, and Fusa smiled. The first test is your practice time. The shorter the practice time, the more chance you have to become an obedient person of your husband. As soon as this remark came to an end, some old-fashioned supreme faces suddenly changed. You have to know, which of the supremes present was not the only one who has worked hard and has accumulated countless years before he is eligible to enter this night palace. In particular, some top extremes and half-step invincible extremes, such as that being you supreme, he has passed 3,000 chaos eras from practice to the present, only to reach this position today. The comparison of the duration of this practice is only compared with those of the same state in this midnight palace. All of you need not worry too much. As soon as this remark was over, many people present at the scene were relieved. The ugly Moroccan supreme, who had an ugly face before, also reappeared a smile. Although he has practiced 3,000 chaos ages, the Qiyang emperor sitting next to him, as far as he knows, has already practiced 5,000 chaos ages, which is almost twice his. Master Zeus is wise. This arrangement is not only fair, but also a person's potential. It's true that although some people are strong, but their talent potential has already been exhausted. Even if they can listen to the preaching of the Lord God, the effect is very small. It is better to give the opportunity of preaching to those who have potential. Everyone echoed. On that day, Luo Zi heard his face of ecstasy. The original presence was top and supreme. If the quota of 10 preaching boys was determined by the state of comparative power, he would have no hope at all. As a result, now, it is only better than that in the same state. The length of his practice, he suddenly burst into confidence. He is now the ultimate dominating realm. And in the audience he is in the same realm, but only Jian Wushuang is the only one. In other words, he has only one opponent, and that is Jian Wushuang. Ha 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 ha. It seems that this boy must have a seat in my Tian Lizzie. Tian Luozi glanced at Jian Wushuang, a rush of joy in his heart. If it is possible to defeat Jian Wushuang, he is still a little bit bottomless. But if it is about the length of practice, let alone Jian Wushuang, He is confident that he can win the audience. I have only practiced for tens of millions of years. I don't even have a chaos period. Who is shorter than me? That sword Wuxia is a special life. I heard that the higher the level of life of these special lives, the harder it is to break through the realm of breakthrough. Want to come to this sword to achieve the ultimate domination? I'm afraid it took hundreds of chaos? He thought to himself secretly, and the more he thought about the smile on his face. Well, swords matchless, let me tie in Lizzie today to expose your pseudo-genius name. On the other side, Jian Wuxia narrowed his eyes when he heard the words. His heart was a little dumb. Compared to the length of practice, he shouted, forget it, just afraid that since he started his practice, it doesn't add up to more than 1,000,000 years? Dang! With a big wave from the universe, a huge jade appeared in front of everyone. This jade is snow white, about as tall as an adult, exuding a sensation of cold, and in the middle of the jade, there is a very clear zero character. You just put your hands up. This time stone can automatically sense the time of your practice, and it will be displayed on it. There will never be half a fraud. Okay, let's start from strong to weak, and start with the half-step invincible supreme. After the voice fell, the half-step invincible supreme was present. You all looked at me, and I looked at you, without moving for a moment. In the end, it was the Bingyu Supreme, striding forward, and first put his hand on this jade. Wow! Suddenly, the original number on this jade began to change continuously. Ding! In the end, the figure was fixed on the 3,216 chaos period. Are there more than 3,000 chaos periods? Zeus nodded slightly, always with a kind smile on his face, which made people wonder what he was thinking. Next, immediately, an ancestor of the Blood Demon clan stepped forward and pressed on the jade. He is also a half-step invincible supreme, and the number displayed on the jade is much higher than that of the Bingyu Supreme, and finally fixed on the 5,000 chaos period. Suddenly, the ancestor of the Blood Demon tribe was apprehended and dejected, and Bingyu Supreme was quietly relieved. Time passed slowly. Some people rejoiced and some were worried. The half-step invincible supreme was present, and most of them far exceeded the age of practice of Bingyu Supreme. Even if there are few years shorter than his practice, it is only a few hundred chaos periods. In the end, Long Qing, who was invincible in the half-step, broke through and finally came on the field. His face was proud and superior. Firstly, he shook his head with disdain towards the others like Bingyu, and then seemed to be an opponent in the slightest. Then he extended his hand and pressed it on the timing jade. 196 chaos period. Suddenly, as soon as this figure came out, the same stone suddenly stirred up thousands of waves, and everyone in the audience shook. Chapter 4389. 196 Chaos Times. As soon as this figure appeared, everyone who was half-step invincible and supremely cultivated at the scene changed his face. Before Long Qing didn't appear, even the shortest half-step invincible supreme was more than 1,000 times of chaos. Comparing the two, the gap is too big. 196 chaos ages, nearly 200 chaos ages, are too young and conspicuous, and have crushed everyone in the field with the crown of the heroes. Because we must know that even if it is some elementary or ultimate masters, the years of spiritual practice may not only be this time. On the main seat of the Lingxiao Palace, Lan Lan's eyes flashed a fascination, and he whispered, "Master, this Long Qing is so good that he has practiced only 196 chaos ages, and he has the current practice." The head of the Zhou slightly smiled, and Fuxiu smiled. "It's really good. But he is the fourth generation of the blood of the dragon race. He was born with the supreme body. It can be said that the starting point is much higher than others, so it is shorter than others' spiritual practice. It's normal." "Is that so?" Lan Lan raised an eyebrow, looking thoughtful. With the end of Long Qing's quiz, the half-step invincible supreme test ended. With 196 years of practice in the chaos period, Long Qing has steadily topped the list, ranking first on the list alone. He looked around, his face full of pride. Then came the measurement comparison between the top extremes. This time, The top pick is still one of the 6 enemies of Jian Wushuang, the Green Dog Supreme. He practiced for 578 Chaos Ages, surpassing a strong alien, and became the shortest person to practice. And then there are High Supreme, Medium Supreme, Elementary Supreme. The time difference becomes more obvious as you practice further down the road, because such practices as Half-Step Invincible Supreme can no longer be achieved by ordinary chance, but require a lot of time to settle. However, the Supreme, the Junior Supreme, etc. are very likely to be greatly shortened by some anti-natural creations, so the gap is widened. In the middle of the test, the King of 9 Kings came out on top with 102 Chaos Ages, which was dazzling for a moment. However, with Long King's view in front, it did not seem particularly shocking. The test of the primal supremacy was the fiercest one. Finally, it was ranked by a strong alien, and the Overlord was slightly weaker, ranking second. Just 3 Chaos Eras. 3 Chaos Eras. The Overlord clenched his fists. His face was covered with unwillingness. Because it is very likely, because of these 3 chaotic eras, they were disqualified from hearing. Finally, the competition between Supremes has all ended. The eyes of everyone in the audience focused on Jian Wushuang. The 3 words swords and swords have a very important place in the universe, or in this era. The first genius of the universe, the first day of eternal vanity, slaughtered Supreme with the body of the master. There are too many tags on Jian Wushuang's body, and more can't make people not face his presence. Therefore, countless people are curious, how many years did Jian Wushuang practice? I think this sword is unparalleled, at least practice 1,000 Chaos Era. Someone's eyes were burning, he said firmly. Yes, whether it is the magical skills used by Jian Wushuang, or the laws of the universe, Kendo comprehension, etc., it takes a lot of time to understand the sedimentation. Without 1,000 chaotic periods, it is impossible to comprehend. Jian Wushuang can slaughter the Supreme with his dominating body. In addition to the tailored divine sword and the Wu Di Chaos Ding, his superb avenue power, and the unimaginable laws of the universe are all indispensable. It just takes an extremely long time to understand things. After all, if Jian Wushuang really practiced thousands of chaos disciplines, it would not be a surprise to be able to do this. Everyone discussed. That Long Qing glanced at Jian Wushuang contemptuously and said bluntly, Sword Wushuang, this seat used 196 chaos period, then practiced to a half-step invincible supreme, and you? Overlords, kings of 9 kings, and others did not say anything. People all have to compare their thoughts. They are also very curious when talking about how many chaos disciplines Jian Wushuang practiced. Jian Wushuang's expression was calm, and he didn't speak. He was about to go to the time jade to take the quiz, and saw Tian Luozi sitting next to him. He stood up and walked out. He clenched his fists tightly, and looked at Jian Wushuang with a grin on his face. Why? Why is the audience paying attention to Jian Wushuang? Obviously I am also the ultimate dominator. Obviously I am also one of the candidates. But why no one gives me a high look? On what grounds? Was Sword Master slaying the Supreme with Sword Master? I can do it. At this moment, Tian Luozi's heart was filled with jealousy. He has to prove to everyone that he is the real Tianjiao. Jian Wushuang is just a pseudo-genius, who is not even as good as his fingers. Thinking of this, Tian Luozi stepped in front of the jade and reached out and pressed it. Wow! Suddenly, the numbers on the jade began to soar. He looked at the soaring numbers with a sneer on his face. Also, let me Tian Luozi step on the sword without a match today, and prove the name of the first genius in the world. Boom! The numbers on jade suddenly stopped. 783,000 years. No chaos period. Suddenly, everyone in the audience who did not pay attention to Tian Luozi was shocked, and his eyes showed an incredible look. What? 79 million years? Not even a chaos period? Who is this? Talent is so horrible. Well, there isn't even a chaos period, but it has been built into an invincible master, who is nowhere near the supreme. This talent is enough to look forward to ancient and modern times. This person I know is called Tian Luozi, but it is a junior who has recently emerged from the universe. He is so talented that he does not fall into the sword without a match. He has also done the most decisive act. Recently, he has become very popular. If the Chaos Era is not coming, you will soon be promoted to the Supreme. If you let him grow up for a while, it is estimated that it is another party's power. Many Supreme people praised it, and even Long Qing flashed a different color in his eyes, and threw an olive branch to Tian Lizzie actively, inviting him to become a disciple of the dragon tribe. In the middle of the night, Tian Lizzie was full of spirits. He enjoyed a lot of admiration around him, his face filled with pride. This is the treatment that Tian Luozi should have. Jian Wushuang, what are you still doing? It's your turn. Tian Luozi turned to look at Jian Wushuang, and smiled vaguely. Chapter 4390. Oh. The sword glanced at him without expression on both sides, then walked up to the jade step by step in the attention. Jian Wushuang, I'd like to see, how long have you practiced? At this moment Long Qing, Tian Luozi and others sneered. Little guy, push your hands up. Zhou God stroked a smile. Jian Wushuang nodded his head, took a deep breath, put his hand on this jade. Suddenly the base 0 number started to change. Everyone in the audience stared at the rapidly changing value. Ding! A crisp sound sounded. 7. When the first number appeared, everyone was stunned, and a smile appeared on their faces. Is there more than 700 chaos ages? Ha ha ha, what genius has practiced more than 700 chaos periods, which is longer than this one, and it is just the ultimate master. The sword is unparalleled. My Tian Lizzie practiced for tens of millions of years, but you practice more than 700 chaos disciplines. What do you compare with me? What qualifications do you have to compare with me? Luo Zi laughed wildly that day. However, the next moment, the smile on his face was rigid. 70. The second number is slowly stationary. No, it's not more than 700 chaos times. It should be more than 70 chaos times. The whole audience was stunned. More than 70 times of chaos were not long. Many ultimate masters practice longer than this time. For example, the King of the Nine Calamities, in the realm of ultimate domination, has been stuck for dozens of chaos periods. Is there more than 70 chaos times? Well, that's just the case. Tian Luozi narrowed his eyes and sneered in his heart. It is true that more than 70 years of chaos are young. This is true, but compared to his 79 million years, it seems far too far away. Everyone's eyes flashed sneer, and they continued to look at the jade. Next moment, on that piece of jade, the specific practice years of Jian Wushuang are completely fixed. 700,000 years. Suddenly, the audience was deadly silent. Some are still holding wine glasses, some are still talking softly with the people around them, and some are sneer. But at this moment, everyone was as if they had been fixed. At this moment, they looked at the jade with a dull expression, and their eyes were almost shocked to fall down. The momentary silence that fell into the audience was immediately boiling. 700,000 years? Am I right? What is the concept of 700,000 years? It takes 1 million years for the old man to close the door. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could Jian Wushuang practice only 700,000 years? At this moment, everyone was horrified. They stared at the clear numbers on the jade, their heads like a stormy sea. Long Qing, who was still very upset and esteemed by the heroes, suddenly became gloomy. Others, such as the Emperor Qiyang, had an extremely ugly face. It must be wrong. How could Jian Wushuang practice only 700,000 years? Something must have gone wrong with this jade. Or what secret technique Jian Wushuang has used to hide the sky. I don't believe it. Luo Zi's face turned red that day. And then he shouted. 700,000 years. Not even a fraction of him. Are you questioning the husband? Li of Zhou still had a kind smile on his face, but his eyes narrowed. Suddenly, Tian Luozi trembled, and immediately he knelt down, daring to speak. The other supremes, including Long Qing, all saw slight changes in their faces. You look at me and look at you. And you bow your heads, and you dare not say anything. It was just a thought that weeds were wildly breeding in their minds. sword warriors but practice 700,000 years, they can prove the ultimate lord of the body, killing the supreme. If he were to practice another 7 million years, 70 million years, or even tens of thousands of chaos period, then what a sight! They did not dare to think about it anymore. They just felt a coldness from head to tail, thought very terribly, and the scalp was numb. In the audience, only Sword Wuxia expression calm. Child, come here. The Zhou smiled and hooked at the sword Wuxia, signaled that the sword was coming to his seat. It is good. Facing the of the universe, Jian Wuxia didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly came to sit in front of him. In the palace during the night, many supreme people saw that Zhou Wuxian called Jian Wuxia as a child, and made Jian Wuxia sit down at his seat, and his expressions became extremely complicated. Long Qing and others are even more jealous. Laner, you told me before that the good seed found in Shinkong Gulu is him? God looked at Lan Lan beside him and asked. Master Hui, I'm talking about him. Lan Lan replied in congratulations. Well, it's really good. The of the gods stroked his beard with satisfaction, and then a smile of blood slightly sighed. Okay, we haven't seen such handsome people for a long time in our universe. After thinking about it, God of God looked at Jian Wuxia, and Xixiang laughed. Child, would you like to worship the husband as a teacher? The words are amazing. As soon as this word came to an end, it was as if a bomb had been dropped in the palace of the night. Master Eos Hen even spoke in person, to make Jian Wuxia worship him as a teacher? At this moment, everyone looked at Xiang Jinshuang, and the jealousy in his eyes condensed into substance. Jian Wuxia may not know what the concept of the word Zhen is, but they do know that Zhen is the real sky in the universe. Once Jian Wuxia worshipped the of heaven as a teacher, it means that Jian Wuxia has a death-free gold medal in the universe, and his status will be honored to the extreme. At that time, Emo said that the dragon and other 6 forces deal with the sword unparalleled. I was afraid that they would immediately kneel before the sword without double-sided, to admit his mistake, begging for forgiveness. In front of the universe, let alone the dragons. Even if the ancestors are resurrected and the ancestors are reborn, they dare not presumptuously. What is one step up? This is called a step up, and it's a step on the 33 days. Allied, sword unparalleled. At this moment, the overlord exclaimed, and even Jiu Jiwang could no longer remain calm, and his eyes flashed wildly. And Tian Luozi, who was once forgotten again, has his fists clenched, his teeth biting, and jealousy can't be added. In the eyes of everyone, the party's sword was unparalleled. After a shock, he didn't rush to agree, but flashed hesitation on his face. There is no doubt that the of the universe is strong and has a high status. Once worshipping the of the universe as a teacher, it can be said that he has obtained the greatest creation in the universe. I am afraid that his sword Wuxia will have wind if he wants wind, and rain if he wants rain. These Jian Wuxia all understand. There was a moment of hesitation in Jian Wu's eyes, and then his eyes arched firmly. Master Zhou God, thank you for your love, but the boy already has a master. Chapter 4391. As soon as this remark came to an end, everyone in the audience couldn't help but stunned. His face full of envy and envy instantly petrified, staring at the sword unparalleled. Is this rejected? There are still people who can reject the of the universe? They looked at Wujian's sword like a fool, and Luozi couldn't help laughing in his heart that day. Sword warriors, you can't even catch such an inferior opportunity. Already a master? No matter how strong your master is, can you still be stronger than Lord God? At this moment, Jian Wuxuang's label in their hearts once again added the word idiot. Is that so? Zhou God looked as usual, and looked at Jian Wuxuang thoughtfully. Suddenly he seemed to have found something, his eyes flashed and said, Children, come closer and let me see. Jian Wuxuang was puzzled, but walked obediently. God of Zhou reached out his hand, and gently touched his fingertips in Jian Wuxuang's eyebrows, and closed his eyes and meditated. A gentle force swarmed into the sword deities. After a few breaths, Zhou God opened his eyes and smiled again at the corners of his mouth. Ha ha ha, so it is, the old man understands. He looked at Xiang Wushuang again, and his expression became a little more exciting. He seemed to talk to himself and said to Jian Wushuang, "It's strange that I have to admit my husband as a teacher." It turned out that the old friend had already started, and it was normal to refuse my husband. In the Lingxiao Palace, everyone else was puzzled when they heard what they said, and did not understand what the god of the universe meant. Only Sword Unparalleled can't help but feel shocked. "Master Zhou God, do you know my master?" Jian Wushuang's voice became a little heavy, and a pair of eyes stared at the god. Xuani is the deepest secret in his heart, and also his biggest fetter. Zhou God heard the words and smiled, but did not speak, but his voice sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. "Your master. The old man and he are more than just knowing each other." Jian Wushuang heard another shock, and knew in his heart that perhaps what was about his master was the secret of the heavens, so the cosmic would tell him by way of voice transmission. "Master Zhou God, then can you tell me where is my master now?" Jian Wushuang said congratulatingly. The god of God groaned for a while, then shook his head and whispered, "The old man hasn't seen your master for a long time, and naturally he won't know where he is. The old man only knows that he is doing a battle before he disappears. A big game, pieces everywhere." After a pause, the god of God smiled slightly and continued, "Child, your master has always been mysterious. You don't need to speculate on his tracks. If he needs you, he will naturally come to you. And what you need to do, it's about doing everything possible to enhance your strength." Jian Wushuang heard the words, and his expression couldn't help being a little hesitant. Doesn't even the Lord God of God know the trace of his master? In addition, Lord Elder God said that master is playing chess. What is the purpose of this game? Himself. Is it just delayed by master? For a moment, Jian Wushuang had mixed tastes. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang bowed deeply to the god of arching and saying, "Thank you for your guidance. You can stand in front of the husband because of chance and cause. You don't need to thank you." Zhou God smiled and said, "Well, Sword Unparalleled, you step back and prepare for the second round of testing." "Yes." Jian Wushuang resigned. The god of God raised his head, looked at the crowd, and said, "You guys please be in the top 2 of your practice in the test of practice. Please come to the second test." The words fell down. In the practice trials just now, the top 3 in their respective realms had a joy on their faces, and they got out of their cases with excitement. They know they have advanced to the second round, and there are no top 3, such as Bingyu Supreme, Qiyang Emperor, and others. Their faces suddenly changed slightly, such as funeral examination approval. They know that the road to their cosmic event has come to an end. That day Luo Zi heard a word of joy. In the heart of the ultimate domination, he and Jian Wushuang, both of them, according to the meaning of the universe, did not he also promoted to the second round? He just got up and stood up, ready to get out of the case. Suddenly, the voice of the Zhou sounded again. "Ultimately dominates the realm. All you need is swordsman." Suddenly, Tian Luozi's face turned red and embarrassed to the extreme. All eyes looked at him, full of mockery. Bright understand. Tian Luozi had no choice but to sit down again. For a moment, with the sword unparalleled, 16 strong men stood in the Lingxiao Palace, and the momentum was extremely strong. They looked at each other, and knew in their hearts that of these 16 people, 6 were destined to be eliminated, and only 10 people could truly have the qualification to listen to the sermons of the Colossus. With a smile on his face, the God of God glanced across the 16 people's faces and slowly said, "You 16 people are the most powerful and talented in your realm. You are us. The mainstay of the future of the universe is the cornerstone of immortality now. I hope you will seize the opportunity to complete the second round of exams." The words fell, and the 16 people looked at each other, and their eyes were gradually dignified. "Then let's start with Long Qing." The of the earth spoke faintly. Long Qing stepped out immediately, clenched his fists and waited. "My husband asks you what is Tao?" Zeus said the content of the second round of assessment. Long Qing heard that her pupil shrank suddenly, and did not rush to answer. But after thinking about it, Shunsheng said, Master Huizhou God, I think the way is to crush the invincible and destroy all the enemies in the world. It is to adhere to the belief in your heart, not to hit the south wall, and not look back. Thousands of words eloquently, Long Qing elaborated his own Tao. Just like his character, the way he thinks is that he will report, and I am invincible. Zhou God listened quietly without interruption, no sadness or joy on one face. It wasn't until Long Qing finished speaking that Zhou Shimfang took out a bamboo card and gave it to the disciples next to him, and let him give it to Long Qing. No way, let's talk about what you think. The god of chaos continued to look at the person next to Long Qing. This person is also a half-step invincible supreme, but is an alien powerhouse who has practiced a total of 1,000 chaos ages, ranking second in the half-step invincible supreme. Yes, this name called Wufang Supreme stepped out and began to talk about the Tao he thought. The Tao is heaven and earth, the Tao is the stars of the universe. Time passed slowly, and in the Midnight Palace, you sang me to the stage. Each of them talked about each other, domineering, and swallowed thousands of miles. Some people talk about chaos evolution, others are the beginning of the universe, a magnificent atmosphere that speaks more than one, as if the competition is not their own understanding of the Tao, but the pattern that is bigger than anyone. Chapter 4392. Zeus always looks as usual, making people wonder what he is thinking. Even if someone is really good, he just nodded slightly. For example, when King Jilong talked about his way, he was dead without regrets. He was lonely, and the people in the world went to sacrifice, and the god of the earth nodded slightly. Finally, all the supremes have been narrated. They looked at the cosmic gods who were indifferent to their emotions. Some of them could not help expressing their dissatisfaction. They were obviously better, while others were confident and thought that they would be at the top. Child, it's your turn. After everyone said it, the god of Zhou looked at Jian Wushuang and smiled. Yes. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, suppressed the throbbing in his heart, kept himself calm, and walked out of the crowd. He knew that if he only talked about understanding the Tao, he would never be the 15 supreme opponents present. Anyone present was a strong man who had practiced no less than 100 chaos periods, and even an old monster with thousands of chaos periods. Even if the sword Wushuang is arrogant, he doesn't think that his own heritage will be deeper than these old monsters, who have experienced long years of sedimentation. However, this does not mean that Jian Wushuang is afraid, and will lose without fighting. In his heart, he also has the Tao that he understands. Child, are you ready? The cosmic god asked with a smile. Ready? Jian Wushuang nodded seriously. Come on, talk about the word you understand. The words fell, and the palace fell silent. Jian Wushuang did not answer in a hurry, but raised his head, looking through the magnificent Xiaoguang, looking far away. A reminiscence appeared in his eyes. He began to recall what he saw and heard along the way. When the other supreme saw this, he immediately sneered in contempt. Pretend, this sword is unparalleled, but it has been practiced for 700,000 years. The little boy who hasn't dried up can understand what it means? It is true that this sword is unparalleled in talent, but the understanding of Tao is not a talent that can be determined. Yes, just wait and see how this sword Wushuang waits for laughter. These supremes shook their heads one after another, with a sense of superiority in their hearts. Just then Jian Wushuang finally spoke. He had a quiet voice, no moodiness, and no pretentious lowness, as if he was telling a thing calmly. The way I understand, it's not a flood or a universe, it's not ordinary, it's not noble, it's like the wind flowing in the air, and the sand in your fingers. It looks like you can't hold it, but it exists beside everyone. Tao is a very fair word. Whether you are the power of a party that destroys the world by raising your hands, or the child of the world, who is only childish without a sword, they all have their own Tao. My sword warriors rises in the midst of the earth, and once walked through thousands of mountains and rivers, and watched the waves of the earth. The road I think is the rural farm cooking smoke, which is the rain falling from the air to nourish weeds and weeds, drilling out of the stone gap, being chewed and swallowed by the old cow, The old cow is aging, and then divided and eaten. It's the cycle of heaven and earth. It's also breaking fate. It's in the midst of things. It's also impermanence. It is 4 seasons, spring and autumn. It is the old, the sick, the dead. It is the bodhisattva's lower eyebrows. And it is also King Kong's anger. Everyone's way is different, but everyone's way is the same way. You can turn the avenue into an estuary. And the process of chasing the road is to break the wind and break the waves. The world is full of vicissitudes. Life is full of plants in autumn, even if you are in a well. But as long as your heart is starlight and you have a fearless heart, you will be able to achieve it. Chapter 4393. 1. I can see that the condensed number on this bamboo card is an extremely conspicuous one. Jian Wushuang looked up at the sky fiercely, and as soon as he said something of thanks, he saw the voice of the of heaven, with a smile ringing in his mind. Thank you for your thanks. Although you can't say how deep the word of the Tao is, it has a unique style and unique ingenuity. The old man puts you in the first place, which can be regarded as my old friend. Jian Wushuang is not an arrogant person. He nodded when he heard the words and stopped talking. And other supremes also saw their own numbers. Am I too? Long Qing narrowed his eyes. His face was slightly greedy. And then he seemed to remember something, and could not help humming. Since I'm second, then who is eligible to be first? The king of Jujia also flashed his eyes. The number displayed on his bamboo card was 3. Presumably everyone has seen their numbers, and they will be seated in their respective arrangements. The other ones can retreat. Zeus smiled and spoke. Suddenly, the 6 people who did not get the digital bamboo card were all disappointed on their faces. Overlord is among them. He was born a domineering body by force to demonstrate that his years of practice were not long. Naturally, his understanding of Tao would not be profound. Leader, then I will go first. The Overlord's tone was difficult to hide. It is good. Jian Wushuang nodded. A few moments later, all the people in the palace went away, leaving only 10 people. Seat. With a wave of the god, 10 blue futons appeared under the god. These 10 futons seem ordinary, but upon closer inspection, there is a faint avenue charm in them. 10 people looked at each other one by one, pressed their excitement, and quickly sat down to their seats. When Jian Wushuang sat down on the first futon, the other 9 people's faces all changed slightly. Long Qing clenched his fists even more, and his eyes showed a sense of indignation. This sword is unparalleled. What qualifications are there on him to overpower him? The next moment, Long Qing turned his head and peered with Green Dog Supreme, and his heart was all about making a decision. After this cosmic event was over, he would kill Jian Wushuang again. They can see that Jian Wushuang is very much pleased by the Lord God of the Gods, and Goddess love for the sword Wushuang almost jumps out of the paper. If Jian Wushuang had worshipped Lord God of the God before as a teacher, the previous hatred would be nothing. But since Jian Wushuang did not worship the of the universe, they believed that even if he killed the sword, the of the universe would not say anything. After all, the of the universe is the master of the universe, and it must be a balanced technique. After Jian Wushuang sat on the futon, he suddenly felt a soft power, flowing from the futon, and swimming around. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang only felt like he was suddenly awakened. Jian Wushuang could not help secretly surprised. Subsequently, the 2 disciples under the seat of the Zhou lighted 2 Mediterranean sandalwood, bowed back, and closed the gate of the Lingxiao Palace. In the rising sandalwood, the Zhou slowly began to preach. The beginning of heaven and earth begins with chaos. Chaos breaks apart, everything is resurrected. Time travels like Baiku over the gap. For the 10 people including Jian Wushuang, the universe race has just begun. But for most people, the universe race has ended, bringing the curtain to a close. In the depths of the universe, Diwu Temple is located. The head of the main hall of Diwu Temple, Black Feather Supreme, wears a purple gold crown, wears a purple gold black robe, and sits high on the throne. Several Supremes stood in the hall respectfully, waiting quietly for the dispatch of Supreme Black Feather. All of you, Jian Wushuang and Jiu Jia Wang of the Palace of Life are listening to the Midnight Palace. Once the two have finished listening, I am afraid that there will be a qualitative leap in strength, especially Jian Wushuang, which is very likely to break the Supreme. At that time, if the two return to the Temple of Life, unite the Bloodwave Supreme, and the Axe Supreme who has recovered from injuries, etc., it will bring us a devastating blow to the Diwu Temple. Instead of this, we might as well seize the opportunity first, set foot on the two men's back road first, and once again kill Jian Wushuang and Jian Wushuang, and then level this enemy of the universe. Black Feather Supreme voice was cold and slowly spoke. The voice dropped, and several other Supremes suddenly looked at each other. One of them said hesitantly, Dian Lord, the battle that besieged the Temple of Life 30,000 years ago, although the vitality of the Temple of Life was severely injured, but we were also severely damaged, what do we use to fight the Temple of Life? The other Supreme also nodded in echo. Heiyu Supreme heard the words and smiled indifferently. Rest assured that this time the siege of the Life Shrine once again, of course, it will not be our day shrine only. This block has contacted 30,000 years ago, and shot at the Life Shrine together. In addition to the other 6 major forces, in addition to the great Japanese God Kingdom, is not willing to participate in the war. The other major forces are willing to join forces again, and completely settle the Temple of Life. Last time, the Shrine of Life was still lucky enough to survive, but it was the glory of the legacy of that catastrophe, and the old guy from Gaffo who fought hard. Now that the share of the Eye's glory and Life Shrine has been exhausted, and the old guy in Jivi also fell asleep, who can stop us? Even if Wu Jianxian of the Starry Sword sect, how about another shot? I don't say that I can win her, but it is enough to hold her for a while and a half. That time is enough to settle the Shrine of Life today. Heiyu Supreme smiled, full of evil. The other Supreme heard the words, and they stared at each other with a sneer on their faces. At the same time, Bingyu Supreme, Qiyang Emperor, Blood Temple Master, etc., are also rushing back to their respective forces to raise men and horses, ready to give a blow to the Temple of Life. Time flies, 5 years have passed. There was a silence in the Lingxiao Palace, only the voice of the god of Zhou slowly talking. The Tao is the same, the non-permanent is the same, the name is also the name, and the non-permanent name. The nameless, the beginning of all things, the famous, the mother of all things, the mysterious door. Except that the of the universe is still sober, whether it is the half-step invincible supreme, such as Long Qing, or the ultimate master, such as Jian Wushuang. All are closing his eyes and falling into the deepest level of enlightenment. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes tightly. He seemed to have traveled through time and space and Xianhuang Honghuang, and it was still a time of chaos in the universe. With the explanation of the universe, this fuzzy and chaotic world began to change gradually. The clear air rises to form the sky, and the cloudy air sinks to form the earth. In the middle, the innate 5 elements evolved, with the mountains and the sea, with flowers, birds, beasts, and insects, and gradually all kinds of life were born in the chaos. The first generation of the universe appeared. Jian Wushuang's mind became clearer and clearer. He wandered in the long river like a small fish, gradually clarifying the essence of power. On him, a boulevard of radiance surrounds him, fairy radiance rises, and the starlight flashes. In Jian Wushuang's body, the barrier between the ultimate dominator and the supreme began to collapse step by step. Jian Wushuang began to move to a whole new realm. Suddenly, a boulevard red lotus floated out from the fingertips of the gods and shot into Jian Wushuang's brows. Ha! In an instant, the addition of this bougainvillea lotus was like the last straw that overwhelmed the camel, and the barrier between the ultimate master and the supreme divine realm shattered. The breath of Jian Wushuang began to skyrocket at a speed never before. He finally entered the ranks of the supreme. The clouds of thunderous thunder began to converge from a distance. Good. Zhou Shen nodded in satisfaction, then glanced over Long Qing and others' faces, and stroked Su with a smile. This cosmopolitan event is over. The old man is looking forward to the next time you see you, how far you can grow. After saying that, with the wave of the god, the entire Lingxiao Palace is like a fortress built on the beach and piled with sand. It gradually disappears and disappears as the wind blows. After a few breaths of time, the of the universe disappeared in front of everyone with the entire palace and 2 disciples. The scenes of the crowd also changed. I saw the surroundings turned into a bright starry sky, whereas the shadow of the half-night palace. If it weren't for the fact that you could feel the real improvement on the avenue, everything would be like a dream. Rumble. There are more and more dark clouds, as if all the dark clouds of the entire universe are gathered here. It is vast, covering the sky. A horror of extreme coercion came to the audience. Under this coercion, even the half-step invincible supreme, such as Long Qing, has changed his face. Not good. Jian Wushuang is going to break the supreme. Stop him. Never let him break the supreme. Long Qing and Blue Dog are supreme, turning their heads abruptly, and looking at Xiang Jianwushuang. Their killings flashed in their eyes. Long Qing, I have received a message from our temple master. They have assembled, and are about to attack the Palace of Life. At this time, we must not let the sword unparalleled break through the supreme. I know. Long Qing's face suddenly gloomy to the extreme. Jian Wushuang's talent and strength, he is obvious to all. Jian Wushuang is still in the ultimate of the realm. He can kill the supreme. If you let him break through supreme, how can you still have? Once sword warrior breaks through the supreme, he can completely grasp the Terra Excalibur, exert the full power of the Terra Excalibur, and the Chaos Overlord will go further. At that time, I am afraid that no one in the entire universe can cure him. And at that time, it will be the beginning of their 6 forces, the disaster. Kill, Long Qing sensibly spoke, and as soon as he stepped down, he went to the sword Wushuang. Ha! Instantly the void exploded. This time, the universal race of the universe, he broke through half-step invincible supreme, and his strength has soared again. This time he will kill sword unparalleled. Ha! However, before he met Jian Wushuang, a figure in white had already taken the lead, stood in front of Jian Wushuang, and waved at him. I'm here today, who can hurt Swordsman half? The King of 9 Kings looked indifferent, blasted out with one hand, and made a move with Long Qing. Rumble. In an instant, I saw the place where the two met, and a shock wave that destroyed the world swept out, shattering the surrounding starry sky, and turning it into powder. Puff. Long Qing took 3 steps back and rushed away the strong wind, and her expression was instantly furious. King of the 9 calamities, how dare you stop me? The King of 9 Kings looked expressionless, first glanced at the invincible Jian Wushuang behind him, then raised his eyelid again to look at Long Qing, and said coldly, "What kind of thing do you dare call me by name?" The King of Jiujia struck by Shuesheng Shui, with white hair flying, looking at Long Qing's eyes, with ancient indifference. His arrogance is even better than the sword unparalleled. As early as when he broke through the supreme, his strength was only 1 line from the top supreme. Now he broke through the medium supreme, and drank God tea at the Cosmopolitan event. He heard the avenue. The strength has not only improved by a little bit. You know, if it comes to talent, the King of Jiujia is only surrendered to those under the swordless twins. What am I? Long Qing heard the words, and immediately burst into anger and laughed, killing his eyes to the extreme. Okay, King 9 calamities, since you are dying yourself, then blame this ruthless one. You will be buried with Jian Wushuang. Green Dog, come together and kill the two. Chapter 4395. Kill. The Blue Dog Extreme turned over with his right hand, and a black exterminator spear appeared in his hand. He knew that at this moment was not a time for delay. He had to be killed while Jian Wushuang experienced thunder and calamity. Otherwise, once the sword Wushuang broke through successfully, it would be unknown who would die. Ha! The Green Dog Supreme stepped, and suddenly turned into a shooting star, rushing towards the King of 9 calamities. No one has arrived yet. Thousands of thunder exploded. On the other side, Long Qing also performed mystery, and opened his mouth to spit out a crimson shell after extreme compression. 2 people kill at the same time. The king of 9 robbers stood in front of Jian Wu, with white hair hunting and flying. In the face of the 2 powerful men killed at the same time, his expression was not happy or sad. His hands instantly printed, "First calamity, mark of doom." Rumble. The power of terror instantly condensed in the void. This mighty power directly formed a huge fingerprint of the sky, which was crushed down by the mighty and merciless. This huge handprint is densely covered with palm prints, and each palm print is full of spirits. Not only is it powerful, but it also has a devastating atmosphere that is violent to the extreme, and it is slammed on the blue dog that came from the attack. Ha! Under the intersection of the 2, directly blast the surrounding stars. Break me! The green dog extreme roared, and the supreme divine power of the surging majestic shore condensed on the destroying spear, and stabbed at the center of this handprint. I saw that this handprint was poked out of a hole, and the green dog supreme was photographed instantly. After doing all this, the king of 9 kings didn't even look at the green dog supreme, and turned his head again to welcome Long Qing. Second calamity, big suppression. Third calamity, big Huang Quanin. I took 2 consecutive palm shots, and I saw that the scene suddenly changed dramatically on this day. In the sky, 5 towering mountains condensed into reality, carrying hundreds of millions of gravity, suppressing them. On the earth, a faint yellow spring, as if ingested from Juyo, exudes a sense of annihilation, rolling towards Long Qing. The surging sound of water rang, and this Huangquan circled like a big python, entangled Long Qing. The crimson artillery shells fired from Long Qing's mouth shot into Huangquan, and just smashed a spray, and then disappeared. Suddenly, the king of 9 calamities defeated the enemy with 1 enemy and 2. Click and wipe. The Huangquan River circled up and entangled Long Qing, and the highly corrosive Huangquan River water completely eroded Long Qing's golden robe. King of calamities. Suddenly, Long Qing's pupil shrank and roared. He never imagined that just being ranked as the most supreme king of the 9 calamities was so powerful that he could compete with him. In the distance, the blue dog's supreme complexion was gloomy, and his gaze flashed. A sword unparalleled. A king of 9 calamities. This life shrine also contains the 2 most powerful Tianjiao of this era. If you don't slash these 2 people today, Diwu Temple will not even be qualified to compete with the Temple of Life. The thoughts of the blue dog supreme flashed quickly. Jian Wushuang and Jiu Jiawang were like 2 bright twin stars, which were too dazzling. A 9 calamity king made them feel so difficult. If they waited for Jian Wushuang to break through the supreme, wouldn't it be possible for them to sweep the entire universe? Diwu Secret Art God. Taking a deep breath, the green dog supreme cast a smash hit. Rumble. The heavens and earth boiled suddenly, and numerous voids opened a crack, setting off a void storm and space debris. Behind the blue dog supreme, a huge ghost is condensed. In this kingdom of God, flowers, birds, and beasts swim, rivers and rivers flow, and they become a world. The 9 calamities king is like the in charge of the world. From beginning to end, he turned his sword to Wushuang. Even though he was stained with white blood, he never stepped back, even if he was facing the 2 top extremes. He didn't talk much, but it was a manifestation of boundless domineering. Wow! Immediately afterwards, the king of the 9 dragons dragged him violently, dragging the green dog supreme, and Long Qing, directly into the world of Godland. Taking a deep breath, Jiu Jiawang looked back behind him, and was breaking through the supreme sword master. But his original pale face slowly swelled a smile, as if to himself. The sword is unparalleled. I cannot see many people in my life. You count me as one. If I die, you take care of the Temple of Life for me. If I do not die, you and I will fight again. With that said, the king of Jiujia turned around resolutely, plunging into the mind of God with a determined attitude. Although this is going to die, don't regret it. This is the way of the king of hell. Who dares to hurt the sword unparalleled half of this big universe? Except for the king of 9. He who can't defeat the sword unparalleled, I will defeat it in 9 jealousies. And he who will not defeat the sword unparalleled in Swordsman, I will kill it. Lao Tian Shun, my old Tian Chong, I will call it dead. In the kingdom of God, the cold voice of Jijiawang came out. Chapter 4396. At the same time, the thunderbolt on the starry sky finally condensed. This thunder robbery is longer than anyone's supreme thunder robbery, and it will take longer to save. The entire sky was filled with thunderclouds at this moment. The horrible might suppresses all directions, just like the revival of ancient thunder gods, and the world will be punished. One after another, the muffled sounds constantly explode. A gust of wind surged, making a violent whistling sound, scraped on the skin, cut sorely, as if a wind demon growled in his ear. In the distance, some supreme masters who participated in the realization, and had not yet left, exclaimed suddenly, "How can this and this thunderous power be so horrible? I remember when I broke through the thunderbolt, it was far less terrifying. I'm afraid the thunderstorm that Jian Wushuang will go through will not be easy." Electricity in the void crackled. Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes, and a fine light flashed through his Zijin pupil. Now my divine power has been transformed into supreme divine power. As long as I survive thunder, I will truly be supreme. Jian Wu's eyes flickered and he murmured to himself. At this moment he really woke up. Prior to that, he had been immersed in the theories of the gods of the universe, and was unable to extricate himself, and was striving to break the threshold of supremacy. It is not clear what is happening outside, only vaguely remembering. It seems that someone has been guarding him. Yes. King Nine Calamities. Feeling the remnants of fighting in the void, and opening up the mind of the kingdom of God, the sword's face suddenly changed. The king of Nine Calamities is in danger. He felt that the thought of the 9 calamity kings in God's country had gradually faded. In order to protect him, King Nine Calamity dragged Long Qing and Blue Dog Supreme together with one enemy and two. However, although Jiao Jiawang has a powerful talent, he is only a middle-class Supreme after all. How can he be the opponent of Long Qing and Qing Dog? Long Qing is a half-step invincible Supreme, and is also a dragon race. Although the Blue Dog is only a top Supreme, it has a spear that can perfectly suppress the special life advantage. Long Qing, Blue Dog. Suddenly, the sword unparalleled was smashing, a horrible killing and surged. As soon as he was about to get up and take action, he saw the 9 calamity kings in Goddess country, and he seemed to realize the intention of Jian Wushuang, and his voice was low. Jian Wushuang, you don't care about me, break through the Supreme. If you do not become Supreme, not only you and I will die, but even the Temple of Life will be destroyed. I just heard the news that, except for the great Sun God, the 5 top forces have all attacked the Temple of Life. Jian Wushuang heard the words, and suddenly felt in his heart. Okay, King Nine Robbers, then you hold on. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. He was not a man of pride, and he knew that with his current self, it would not help the battle. Only after experiencing thunderstorms and truly breaking through the Supreme, can we help the building to fall and turn the tide over. Come on then. Jian Wushuang raised his head, and looked at the thunder robber from the sky. Bang! A thick red thunder with a thick bucket full of flames, fiercely chopped out of the thunder cloud. 5 elements thunder. This is the 5 elements thunderstorm. Suddenly, a few extremes watching the scene in the distance, the pupils suddenly shrank and whispered, Jiang Wushuang is in trouble. The 5 elements of thunderstorms are intertwined, and they are linked together. The power is dozens of times that of ordinary thunderstorms. Click. This Ding Vulcan thunder is extremely fast. At first glance it is still in the sky. The next moment it is severely split on Jian Wushuang. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang issued a groan, the violent force of thunder, and the raging flames almost instantaneously, tearing his body through a crack. The power of endless thunder, and the surging flames ran down the cracks, poured into his body, and destroyed all his internal organs. Break me! Sword Warrior's eyes were hunting, and he urged Chaos Ba to crush the flame thunder. If he fails to get the Chaos Overlord, this Ding Vulcan thunder is afraid that he will be hit hard in an instant. But now, After he awakens the Chaos Overlord, the body is 10 million times stronger than before. Seeing a breathing time, the crack on his body recovered instantly, leaving only a black mark. Ha! And the second Xunlei fell again. Haishui Xunlei. This time, Jian Wushuang did not get beaten passively anymore, but turned his right hand directly to use the Wu Weeping Sword. Open heaven! A blood-colored Jian Mong was cut out by the sword unparalleled, and hit the Haishui Xunlei fiercely. This sword traversed a beautiful arc in the air, immediately in midair, and slammed hard against the Haishui Xunlei. Click! The Haishui Xunlei collapsed and Kaitian Jianmong also shattered. It seemed that he felt the meaning of Jian Wushuang's resistance, and this thunderstorm seemed to be angry and make a loud noise. Ha! Suddenly, Atsuki Thunder and Bingtu Xunlei split from thunder clouds at the same time. Between heaven and earth it was incandescent, lighted by electricity for a while. Good job! Jian Wushuang saw this. His expression was slightly dignified. Chopper stars. Wui Chao Ding. Jian Wushuang first cut a Mori blue swordsman at will, smashed the Otami god Thunder, and immediately turned it over with his right hand. Again took out the Wu Ding Chao Ding, and rammed it towards the Bingtu Xunlei. Hey! A loud explosion came out, and a huge cloud of mushrooms rose. The Wu Ding Chao Ding flew back and fell into the sword without hands, and the clay god Thunder was also crushed every inch. Last one. Jian Wushuang looked up to Lei Jia. In his eyes, the mango skyrocketed by 3 inches. Among the 5 elements, Gung Jin's killing is also the most aggressive 5-element spirit. This final of Thunder will definitely surpass any previous of Thunder, even the sum of their might. Rumble! I saw the silver snakes flying through the thunderclouds, and the murderous power suddenly spread out. This Gungjin Lei Wei has the greatest energy. I don't know if Sword Wushuang can take it. Jiang Wushuang is really a monster, and the 5 elements of God Thunder will be replaced by anyone. I'm afraid they won't be able to get through easily, but it seems that it is not difficult to deal with Jian Wushuang. Boom! Chapter 4397. Ha! Jian Wushuang's two-handed Jin Guangkenken grabbed Gungjin Xunlei directly and pulled it hard. Wow! In an instant countless electric light burst. Ying Jian's face was covered with incandescence, and the purple chuan in the middle of his eyebrow became even more dazzling. Those electric snakes slammed on Jian Wushuang, just like iron nails hitting a steel plate, making crackling noises and splashing countless sparks. How can this and this deity be so strong? It's against the sky. In the distance, those who have not left, the pupils shrink. They can practice to become supreme, and their eyesight will not be poor. In their eyes, Jian Wushuang's deity is like an innocent treasure, without any regrets. And there is no opportunity for the Gungjin Xunlei to have any opportunity. You know this Gungjin Xunlei, even if they cannot easily take over. 5 elements thunderstorm, but that's it. Jian Wushuang stood in the air and laughed loudly. The muscles of his arms curled up, and he actually opened his mouth and shoved the Gungjin Xunlei into his mouth. Ha! After the Gungjin Xunlei was swallowed, it suddenly exploded like a cannonball in Jian Wushuang's body. The sword Wushuang just twisted the chaotic domineering body and completely smashed the Gungjin Xunlei. Chaos Overlord can be said to be the first of all ages. In front of Chaos Overlord, the 5 elements thunder is not enough. As Gungjin Xunlei was swallowed up by the sword unparalleled, the sword unparalleled body became more and more brilliant. Actually, suddenly thunder? Is that human being? It was the first time I saw someone crossing a minefield, and I directly swallowed the minefield. In the distance, countless Supremes were dumbfounded and shocked to say nothing. For the first time, they found out that thunder can still be done like this. Jian Wushuang fell from the air, and his negative hand looked at the thunderous cloud. Theoretically, the 5 elements thunder robbed the 5 god thunders, and after they had passed through, the thunder should dissipate. However, the thunderstorm hanging above Jian Wushuang's head, instead of dissipating, he became more and more condensed. The dark cloud overwhelmed the city, and the thunderstorm was so heavy that it seemed like the sky would fall down. An intimidation of countless times more than before. came suddenly to the audience. What happened? Suddenly Jian Wushuang frowned. Many extremes in the distance were even more suspicion. Isn't the 5 elements thunderstorm over? Why hasn't this thundercloud dissipate? Yeah, this thunderstorm is so abnormal. Since ancient times, I have never heard of Lei Jita's unbroken life. Rumble. At this moment, the thunderous thief, which was located at a high altitude, made a roar that shook the heavens and the earth like the anger of the heavenly man. In this roar, the sound directly turns into substance, rolling around and spreading, smashing the endless void directly. Countless thick bowls of thunderous electric snakes shuttled in the dark clouds, which was horrifying to the extreme. This is the real thunderstorm. Thunderstorm is coming. Suddenly countless supreme horror sounded. Only then did they really understand that the 5 elements thunder calamity was just an appetizer, and the real thunder calamity was in front of them. Suddenly the vision suddenly changed. I saw in the countless thunderclouds, the avenue evolved, chaos emerged, and the dragons and phoenixes emerged in imagination, circling and shouting. Among the thunderclouds, it seems that there are 9 days giants holding thunder hammers in their hands and staring at the sword unparalleled, wanting to put him in deadly. Thousands of thunderous explosions blew up, sending out a muffled sound, as if a gold-armored soldier was drumming a drum in the ancient heaven court. Every sound of the sound made the people tremble. Immediately, I saw countless 5-element thunder condensed from all directions, and finally continued to distort and breed, fused together, forming a black thunder like the whip of thunder god. After the condensation of this black thunder, a chaotic breath that spread through the ancient times spreads in all directions. In the distance, many supreme faces who feel this breath have changed, and they see and believe it. This is Chaos God Thunder. Chaos Thunder, the first thunder calf that has been recognized ever since. Chaos, thunder and thunder have always been passed on to legends. I never thought that there would be chaos, thunder and thunder in this world. This chaotic thunderstorm is too strong. Even my top supreme can't support it. How can Jian Wushuang survive it? Is sword unparalleled, want to die in this chaotic thunderstorm? Reversing the sky. It's too reversing the sky. Jian Wushuang is afraid that it will be the first master to attract chaos, thunder and thunder from all ages. Click and wipe. The power of thunderclouds is still constantly strengthening, as if the calamity of the heavens and the calamity, and everything under thunderclouds is turned into nothingness. Under this coercion, even Jiao Jiawang's thought of the kingdom of God could not be maintained, and it shattered. The 3 figures fled, and saw King Jiao Jia's face waxed yellow. A white shirt was covered with blood marks like plum petals, and the deity was extremely weak. And Long Qing and Blue Dog Extreme are also not much better. A dragon scale has been peeled off a few pieces, and another destroying spear has been broken. King of the 9th calamity Yuet, Long Qing's murderous flickered in his eyes, and he looked surprised and angry at King Jujia's eyes. The King of 9 Kings ignored him, but looked at Jian Wushuang with a frown. This is Chaos Thunderstorm? He narrowed his eyes and his face changed slightly. You know, he is also a perfect chaotic creature. But when he crosses the robbery, it is only a colorful thunderbolt. Compared with this chaotic thunderbolt, is it just a little bit worse? At the same time, Long Qing and Blue Dog Supreme also noticed this scene. Not good. Jian Wushuang is about to cross over. Long Qing's pupil shrank, and they were about to move. Then saw the Blue Dog Supreme grabbed him. Blue Dog, what do you mean? Long Qing wondered. Long Qing, this is Chaos Thunderstorm. The Blue Dog Supreme stared at the thundercloud above Jian Wushuang, and said solemnly, Chaos Thunderstorm? Long Qing didn't respond for a moment, and after a little recall, her face suddenly changed. What? Turns out to be Chaos Thunder. The boy Wu Jinshuang has caused Chaos Thunder? Chapter 4398. At this moment, the violent wind blew the sword Wushuang's full black hair, and he looked at the Chaos Thunder with a dignified expression. The Chaos God Thunder had not yet fallen, and the overwhelming coercion fainted him, and he began to tremble. In front of this thunder, he was almost as small as the ants looking at the sky, This chaos thunder is far from comparable to the previous 5 elements thunder. Broken. Jian Wushuang drank aloud. His body was full of golden light. The blood was boiling. The purple eyes in his eyes became more and more dazzling. Ha! In the face of this thunder, he stepped on his feet, and the whole man went backwards, punching him on the thunder. Boom! A huge explosion exploded, and saw the figure of Jian Wushuang, like a broken kite, crossing an arc in the air and falling to the ground severely. Just of thunder, soared unparalleled defeat. I saw his dazzling gold body covered with thousands of cracks, like a sticky ceramic doll, which seemed to be broken soon. Ha 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 ha, bang, well, blast this sword unparalleled. Long Qing and Green Dog on the side saw the supreme sympathy, and suddenly laughed. The King of 9 Calamities had his eyes narrowed, and his heart kept sinking. Just a moment ago, he received a supreme news, prompting him to rush back to the Temple of Life. The Temple of Life, under the pressure of the 5 major forces, was already 100,000 in a hurry. At the moment, Jian Wushuang is facing chaos, thunder, and a life of 9 deaths. Ahem! Jian Wushuang coughed and coughed, as if he was coughing, and a smoky black smoke was spit out by Jian Wushuang. He took a deep breath, turned his gaze to Long Qing and Blue Dog Supreme, and asked coldly, "Do you think it's funny?" Long Qing and Green Dog Supreme heard the words, and they felt more funny in their hearts. They looked at each other and shook their heads and said, "The sword is unparalleled, and the sins of the sky are unforgivable." Buzz. In the sky, a second chaos thunder gradually accumulated. Power is better than the previous point. Jian Wushuang looked up at the thunder in the sky, and then looked at Long Qing and Qing Dog Supreme again, and the corners of his mouth gradually opened a shadow of sneer. Long Qing and Qing Dog Extreme looked at Jian Wushuang, who had a bad look on his face, and for some reason, he felt a sudden shock in his heart. "Jian Wushuang, what do you want to do?" Long Qing pretended to ask calmly. "What? You said you were going to kill me?" With a sneer, Jian Wushuang sneered, sprinting towards Long Qing and Blue Dog Extreme. The chaotic thunderbolt on the top of Jian Wushuang's head moved as the sword Wushuang moved. "No. The little thief, Jian Wushuang, wants to take us to accompany him with thunderstorm." Suddenly, the Green Dog Supreme scalped numb and shouted. Long Qing also looked dumb. Thunder Jia has no active consciousness. It will only lock on Jian Wushuang, while others appear within the range of Thunder Jia. Thunder Jia will only act as Sword Wushuang's secret magical powers, etc., to carry out indiscriminate attacks. Rumble. As Jian Wushuang rushed to the side of Long Qing and Blue Dog Supreme, it had already been formed, and the Chaos God Thunder that was about to split against Jian Wushuang suddenly condensed again into 3, and the power did not weaken at all. Turned towards Long Qing and Blue Dog Extreme, they also split. "Damn it!" Long Qing roared and looked at the chaos of the chaos, and had to arbitrarily lift his scalp and shake his hands away. The Blue Dog Supreme is a quick seal of his hands, and he is constantly performing supreme divine magic to fight against this chaotic of thunder. Ha! 3 God Thunders split at the same time. Jian Wushuang once again took out the Wu Ding Chaos Tripod, extracted the air of Hongmeng Chaos, and ran into the Chaos God Thunder. Boom boom! I saw 3 shocking collision sounds. After the 3 Chaos Gods Thunder, the sword of Wushuang, Long Qing, Blue Dog Supreme 3, were all severely dropped. Jian Wushuang and Long Qing are better. After all, one is Chaos Overlord, the other is Dragon, and the physical body is the top level of the universe. Except for the boiling of blood and the bursting of the body, it has not reached the point of great vitality. The Blue Dog was terrible. Numerous mysteries were directly bombarded by a thunder, smashed on the body severely, opened his mouth and spit out endless blood. His face was instantly pale and crumbling. Crazy. This is a lunatic. Jian Wushuang wants to pull us all together. The Blue Dog was screaming, shouting loudly. The next moment, he turned around and shot towards the distance. Long Qing wiped away the faint gold blood that overflowed from the corner of his mouth, and after looking at Jian Wushuang sternly, he was also far away. This chaos thunder is better than one. God knows how many thunders will come again. What will the power to achieve? Seeing this scene in the distance, some Supremes suddenly shook their bodies and immediately hurried back, for fear that Jian Wushuang was about to drag a few people on his back before he died. Want to escape? Don't you want to watch how we die? Why don't you watch? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, sneered at the corner of his mouth, and as soon as he stepped, he would chase towards the two of Long Qing and Qing Dog Supreme. This chaotic thunderstorm is too horrible. He is not sure whether he can survive this thunderstorm. If it would really fall into this thunderstorm, it would be better to put Long Qing and Qing before dying. The two dogs are pulled together. Just as he was about to catch up, the voice of King Jiujia suddenly sounded in his mind. Jian Wushuang, here is not far from the Temple of Life. You and I quickly return to the Temple of Life. Okay. Jian Wu's body shook slightly and turned to look at King Jiujia, saying, What happened to the Temple of Life? The king of Jiulong took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, The sword is unparalleled. Now the 5 forces besiege the Temple of Life, and the Temple of Life is at stake. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang trembled in his right hand and immediately took a deep look at Long Qing and Qing Dog Supreme, no longer chasing, but flickering, rushing towards the Temple of Life. Above him, the Chaos Thunderbolt moves. King Jiujia looked at Lei Jia above his head, Jian Wushuang flying away, a smile on his mouth. This chaotic thunderstorm, if it joins the battlefield, it will be a big surprise, right? The next moment, King Jiujia didn't hesitate, and as he stepped, he chased in the direction of the Temple of Life. Far away. Chapter 4399. At the same time, battlefield in the Temple of Life. Spaceships hovered in front of the Gate of Life Shrine, unable to see their heads. Dozens of supreme people stepped on the deck and stood on their feet without saying a word. Although they have not spoken, the powerful breath has been exhausted, which is enough to suffocate. Leading it was a young man with twin horns on the head and white scales on his cheeks. He may seem young, but everyone knows that the dragon family named Longbai is actually an old monster who has already passed thousands of chaos ages. He was also the twin brother of the 3 generations of Dragon Clan Long, Yu, who participated in the Battle of the Life Shrine tens of thousands of years ago. Not long ago, he broke through the invincible supremacy and was responsible for leading the dragons this time to come and settle on the Temple of Life. This is my first battle to break the invincible supreme, and it is this battle that will make my name in the universe. Long Bei's eyes flashed with excitement, and he waved his right hand forward and sneered. Kill! Suddenly, dozens of dragons behind him turned into bodies and smashed towards the Temple of Life. Beside him, Bingyu Supreme, Qiyang God Emperor and Lord of the Blood Temple, seeing the same flashes of light, led the disciples of their respective forces towards the Temple of Life. For a moment, the void in front of the Shrine of Life was filled with black masters and dominated by all ranks. In this battle, the 5 major forces sent a total of more than 20 Supremes, of which Long Baixia was the highest, but was the first to enter the Invincible Supreme, and the Bingyu Supreme and the Qiyang Emperor were slightly inferior, ranking Invincible Extreme, and the Lord of the Blood Temple is the top extreme. This lineup is not small, and it is not weaker than the 6 major forces that year, besieging the Battle of the Temple of Life. On the other hand, there is the Palace of Life. Gave Supreme fell asleep, the White Tiger Supreme died, and the Giant Axe never recovered from serious injuries. No one can say how much combat power he can have. Gate of Life Shrine, Bloodwave Supreme, Giant Axe Supreme, and Heavenly Supreme, the 3 Chief Supremes stand side by side. Behind them, 7 Junior, Middle and Senior Supreme followers. A total of 10 Supreme. This is all the fighting power that the Shrine of Life can take out now. Master Bloodwave, I just received the news that the Guy of the Black Feather has led the Diwu Temple to intercept the reinforcement of the Starry Sword Sect. I'm afraid the Starry Sword Sect will not be able to arrive for a while. An ordinary Supreme said bitterly behind him. Master Xiebua, I just received a rumor from the Jiudi Pavilion. I have previously said that the Great Sun God Kingdom, who is no longer involved in the war, was also led by the Great Emperor, blocking the Judy Pavilion outside the Universe Passage. The other side is ordinary and supreme, with an ugly expression. Bloodwave Supreme heard the words, could not help but fell into silence. The two major aid forces have been cut off. This time, the 6 major power agencies are exhausted, and the Temple of Life will be completely dead. It can be said that the vitality of the Temple of Life has been completely cut off. It wasn't until a long time before Supreme Master Xia took a deep breath. Looking at the next to the Heavenly Supreme asked, Heavenly, how about the passage in the shrine that leads to the edge of the universe? Tianxuan Supreme nodded and heard Shinshin said, Blood, that channel has been tested, and is almost stable enough to convey the disciples to the edge of the universe, and I have sent someone there ready to respond. At the same time, he is also the last checkpoint of the Life Shrine, guarding the last gate for the Life Shrine. Once the Bloodwave Supreme and others fall, and the Temple of Life is broken, he will be here to keep the last line of defense. Haha. However, there is silence in the Temple of Life. No one left. They clenched their fists tightly without moving their feet. What are you doing? Yin Shan's voice thickened. I saw a shrine disciple who clicked his teeth. Extreme Yin Shan, the Temple of Life is my home. The home is gone. What's the point of my life? That's right. Instead of sneaking away, let's die. I'll wait and die with the Temple of Life. For a while, the sentiment in the Temple of Life was intense, and the voice of coexistence and death with the Temple of Life resounded through the sky, shaking the earth. Chapter 4400. I saw a towering mountain, and the face of Yinshan Supreme saw this scene, and he could not help showing his emotions. A warm current flows through him. As the saying goes, the tree is falling apart, and the calamity is flying. But how lucky is the Temple of Life to have such a group of disciples who are willing to die together. The Temple of Life may not be the most powerful force in the universe, but this alone is far from being comparable to other top forces. Taking a deep breath, Yinshan Supreme let his face sink and scolded. Don't be fooled, Bloodwave Supreme, but they are using their lives to earn you time. If you don't leave, that Bloodwave Supreme wouldn't it have been sacrificed for nothing? The voice dropped. Yinshan Supreme's tone slowed a little, and continued. Listen well, you are the roots of the Temple of Life. As long as you do not die, even if the Temple of Life is destroyed today, I believe that it will still be able to come back and revive the temple. But if you die, the Temple of Life is really dead. In the end, the sound of Yinshan Supreme has been like a squeak of the heavens, drinking and deafening. As soon as this word came to an end, there was a dead silence in the Palace of Life, leaving only a heavy gasp. Yinshan Supreme said, Have they never understood? Extreme Yinshan, look at it for a while, and we will leave after a while. A shrine female disciple bit her lower lip, her eyes full of resentment. Yinshan Supreme heard the words and had to sigh, and agreed to this request. Outside the Palace of Life. Ha ha ha. I am destined to become famous in this battle. Long Bei's eyes sparked with sparks of excitement, constantly commanding many powerful men on the battlefield, strangling the Bloodwave Supreme and others. The Supreme of the Temple of Life cannot be described as strong, because each one is a special life. It has exploded several times in the same realm. The Bloodwave Supreme firepower is fully open, suppressing the Ice Cream Supreme bombardment. The giant axe is facing the Qiang Emperor, and each axe carries the power of Kaitian, pressing the Qiang Emperor under him. The Heavenly Supreme is also unwilling to be outdone. To the Lord of the Blood Temple, every arrow fired can precisely lock the erratic body of the Heavenly Temple Lord, and force him back again and again. And the 7 ordinary Supremes also have strength far beyond the same realm, often with one enemy, even 3. However, if this is allowed, they are still suppressed and retreated. There is no reason for him. There are too many strong men dispatched this time. In addition to the more than 20 supreme powers, there are also hundreds and thousands of ultimate dominators. They come together, set up battle formations, and turn into war giants, united in no way to the Supreme. At the end of the crossbow, Long Bai put out his tongue and licked the corner of his mouth, shaking his head in disdain. There is no need for him to take part in this war. He just needs to stand here quietly and sit in the audience. Blood wave, we can't hold it for long. One more shot from the Heavenly Supreme will prepare to slaughter the ordinary Supreme Bloody Temple Master. And pant a little bit. How long can we persist, at least for our disciples all safely transferred? In the eyes of Supreme Bloodwave, the murderous light flickered, and at his feet it turned into a sea of corpse blood, containing the power of the horrible laws, suppressing the Iceberg Supreme. Okay, I see. Tina Supreme took a deep breath and stopped talking. Rumble. On the battlefield, all the magical powers that destroyed the heavens and the earth were launched, destroying everything. Various kinds of power burst out, such as sword chi, sword on, and mystery, surging up, like the scene of extinction.